Hey everyone, guess what? We do not have ugly swag. We have spaced out radio gear that you're going to want to wear. Why? Because no one wants to wear ugly clothing. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com and go shopping today. You'll be glad you did. And it's a great way to support our show. Once you get your gear, send us a picture of you rocking out in your SOR swag. Spacedoutradio.com. Shop there today. And make yourself look good. Welcome to Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. Is going to be a fantastic show here tonight. We are going to go a little deeper than we normally go here tonight. We're going to have our guest, Sir Bryan Bowden, stepping in. We're going to be talking about the case that UFO or alien contact could be imminent. I know a lot of people say that, but we're going to definitely make the case that his history may actually lean into this idea. So we'll be looking at that. We'll be talking about a lot of different things here tonight. It's going to be an awesome show. Make sure you guys stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. Also, let me go ahead and look back in the chat here because I didn't get a note from Race Fan, which is weird, but that, or Kitty Catty Whack. Okay, here we go. She's in the chat though. Kitty Catty Whack, first three in. We got Kitty Catty Whack with the gold. We got Race Fan with the silver and Para Marvelous with that bronze. Appreciate you guys coming on in bright and early. It's awesome that you guys do that. Let's see. And I do see this message here. So Ben Jim was in the chat earlier. Question the aliens. Okay, I'm going to save that right there. Appreciate that. We'll bring that back up later, Kitty Catty Whack. Let's see. Yeah, and I do appreciate you getting that because YouTube does erase messages. That's a fact in live chat. Who else do we have out here? We got Roger Murray in the building saying Happy U.S. Veterans Day. Drew Banky. Shout out to Drew Banky who served this country for us. We appreciate our veterans as well. So thank you for that, Roger Murray. Thanks for keeping us informed. We got Mel WD40 in the building saying hello, Rob G and Bryan and Drew. He's in the building too. Appreciate you getting us lubed up and ready for the show. As always, we got Werewolf 69 saying, hey, Rob, appreciate you coming on in. Werewolf 69 seems like a new name. If so, welcome to the show. Who else do we have out there? Cosmic Joe Chronicles. I see you out there. We have Ms. Catherine Jones in the building. Appreciate you, Ms. Catherine, for coming on in and supporting what we do here. We got Kitty Catty Whack getting that super sticker in the building. Yeah, we're getting it kicked off right now, bright and early. Thank you for your support of Spaced Out Radio. Who else do we have out there? We have, let's see. We have Flat Sixer in the building. He added the on there, and I appreciate it because it's definitely something I would call you, Flat Sixers. Appreciate you making that change and coming on in. T-Bone in the building saying hi, Mr. MRG. Appreciate you coming on in, T-Bone, and your love support for the show as well. Super Crazy Movie Geek. Oh, yeah, we want retribution. We always do, and we're not going to stop till we get it. Let's see here. What else do we have? Matt Gutka. Matt Gutka is in the building as well. Hello, Mr. Rob G and SORs. We got Mike Jones. Mike Jones in the building. Also, we got Kurt M out there. Appreciate you showing on up. Let me go ahead and get the podcast side started. We will for surely get to everybody else. Welcome to Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours Radio Show. Me, your host, Mr. Rob G. We're going to have a fantastic show here tonight. We're going to be looking at the case that alien contact could be imminent. I mean, there's a lot of talk going around. We'll be doing that with Sir Bryan Bowden for hours 1 and 2. Then we got Drew Banky with the After Hours wrap up in hour number 3. Steve Stockton tells untold missing person mysteries, UFO weird news, guys. Let's get it in. Greetings, space travelers. Welcome home. You just tuned your dial to Spaced Out Radio, the only place where you can own the night. I am your host, Mr. Rob G. And tonight, we're broadcasting on our terrestrial affiliates across North America, plus digitally on digital platforms all around the world. Don't forget, you can access our archives absolutely free. YouTube.com/@SpacedOutRadio. And while you're there, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to follow us on X and Instagram @Spaced Out Radio, now Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where the options are endless. You can stay up to date with the SR Newswire. You can get yourself some official Spaced Out swag. Plus, you can rock out to the man you hear right there, Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and oh so much more. We're going to have a fantastic show here tonight. We have Sir Bryan Bowden joining us. We're going to be talking and trying to make the case that extraterrestrial alien contact could or might be imminent. There's a lot of things that point to that. And we're not going to waste any time at all. We're going to go ahead and bring our guest here on the stage, joining us live from the East Coast, Sir Bryan Bowden.
Hello.
So it's SK Bryan Bowden. So
well, it stands for Sir Knight Bryan M. Bowden. That's my actually official title. They include they include my middle name, but that is personal. And if you want, you can call me McLovin. That's what everybody calls me in the freaking Florida. It's either that or Bigfoot, which is great. So it works out good.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Sir Knight Bryan Bowden. So
yes.
You know, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. It's a lot of focus in the world right now, which I think is a good thing on 3i Atlas. Just being intrigued with what's going on outside of our world
right.
is always an awesome thing. I'm going to read a story here about the latest on what's going on, but I just want your initial thoughts on what are you thinking about 3i Atlas? How do you feel about it?
Well, I mean, if you go by Avi Loeb, everything's extraterrestrial craft. And he's making a lot of statements about it being, intelligently controlled and what have you, but we don't really know. He's trying to make these outrageous claims that there's not enough substance in the universe to create the craft that it is, and it has to be, handmade or crafted. We have a couple of satellites that are out there and telescopes, and they're, checking out the environments, but there's not as much concrete as people think. But if you consider that the original WOW signal came from the center of the universe, the black hole at Sagittarius A, that is the center of the black hole of our universe. 3i Atlas came out from the same area. That makes it very, very interesting. And there's so many, some of the images that we're seeing online are just people. I think they're BS personally. This thing is like very, 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 very small as compared. We don't have that kind of Halo or Star Wars technology or even Star Trek where we can see really close up like that. That is public. But that being said, it is interesting that it's headed this way. It's very interesting what people are saying. Um, we were talking backstage. Wayne and Michelle are here from another show, and I told him, "Hey, do a prediction show before 2025." So he did. So I actually went to a hockey game that night, but I did do a prediction, and one of my predictions was that we are going to. I'm talking about the entire planet will have audio and video communication from extraterrestrials this year. And the way it's looking right now, if Three Eye Atlas lives up to the hype, we may very well have that. I saw somebody there. The ETs don't want disclosure in something, in one of the questions. The ETs, I believe, feel we are ready as a species right now for disclosure. They don't need the approval of any government, no matter if it's public or private or in a black budget, to disclose. They're going to disclose when they feel we're ready. And some of them, I think, feel we are ready at this point. But and I know we've talked about this before. What worries me is Project Bluebeam. That's that like 9D hologram, whatever plan to, fake an alien invasion and then get everybody together in white tunics, and that gets me nervous at this point because there's a lot of stuff that's going on with artificial intelligence, and sometimes you can't tell what's real and what's not. So I'm on the fence about it right now.
And that's actually a perfect place to end that statement because going forward, obviously, it is likely going to be harder and harder to detect data that's put out there. Even though there's been, I've heard video and photo experts say that they have the ability to tell what's real and what isn't when it comes to AI, and maybe that dilutes itself down the line. Because essentially, and I could just say this because maybe someone doesn't know this, but if we're talking about just the actual photo, I guess what they're saying is that if we take an image of a UFO, the way that photo is encoded is totally different than if AI were to recreate that photo.
Yes.
And AI packages it in a way that is nice and neat and precise, whereas actual photo isn't. The data isn't put together that way. So maybe AI finds a way to kind of mask that ability, and then we're in trouble probably after that. But I think up until that point, and then the other thing, because of that fact, that's why it is awesome to be able to have a history in ufology, which allows us to lean back on things. And then we have things in the sky right now. We have things in the sky. So Three Eye Atlas aside, we have all this other stuff going on here. So it's like I think it just leads credence to what Avi Loeb is saying. But Michio Kaku, I did see him interviewed yesterday.
He's coming on board, right?
Well, no, this is what he says. He says, okay, Avi Loeb he has never really said that this was 100% something out, alien technology, but he has said, 40%. And he says, I think my perspective is, I think that this is an artifact from space over like 7 billion years old. And the reason why it's behaving like this, because it's obtained all this material over time. And he gave a different, which is cool because I think with not knowing what it actually is, I think it's okay to have different sides of the conversation chime in.
Yep, definitely. I agree with you on that. I at one point I told everybody when I was, I think last on the show or with you, I mentioned that we've actually seen reverse engineered craft in action during the Middle East crisis when Iran was sending ballistic missiles. And I posted a link to the BBC, I believe, in that chat, which was incredible to see, a TR-3B, which, it's right there. And I'm like, I was blown away when I'm seeing, I was talking to, Dave Scott about it. We were talking privately. He was like, "You see it?" I'm like, "Yeah, I saw it." I mean, right in front of your face with this type of stuff. But you gotta keep, I'm 80-20 at this point, and that 20% is very suspect that this is extraterrestrial. But again, what we see publicly and what we get publicly as far as technology is concerned, artificial intelligence is really drastically different than what the private sector knows. And that's what's unnerving about it. Like, maybe they know something that we don't know, or they want to definitely control a narrative, right? So to keep everybody under control.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, like some of the images and the videos I'm seeing, and what I think it was a story with a guy with a telescope in Japan that caught it. And it's just bizarre.
And the best potential photo that we could ask to have of it as we stand today is from NASA, and we're not going to be able to see that here until the government opens. I guess that's what they say.
Yeah, no, everybody says that, but NASA stands for not a straight answer. So why bother? It's just the truth of what it is. What something is really interesting along the lines of what I was predicting on Wayne and Michelle's show, and it's a really long name, and I apologize to Wayne and Michelle who are actually in chat, so don't kill me, Wayne or Michelle. But there's something bizarre going on in the Upper Peninsula, Michigan right now. There's a bluish, electric blue type of horizontal light that's coming out. There's orbs appearing. There's strange sounds taking place. And people are reporting broadcasts, including ham radio operators, of what some say sounds like a foreign language or Aramaic. And could this be a preliminary, communication by some extraterrestrial race of beings saying, "Hey, we're here," just warning us in advance?
I think so, and I think that's kind of what I'm feeling. And as we put this together, I think it would potentially show that over time there may have been hints and clues and attempts to let us know that there is some sort of impending upcoming thing. Not saying that Three Eye Atlas is the thing, but
Right.
until we figure out what it is, then we have to at least sit back and wonder if this is that thing they were trying to warn us about. And maybe it'll pass and just be this, as Michio Kaku says, 7 billion-year-old rock that has been traveling through interstellar space for that's a long time for something to be traveling through space, by the way. But
Well, they're making, of course, Earthlings who think they're the greatest things on, in the galaxy, which they may not be. I'm highly sure we're not. They're making a lot of guesstimates. As far as this is concerned, they are using some physics and rocket science to try to calculate certain things. But as Paramarv just said, the aliens are going to come eat the Upers first. Maybe they just like come by Earth and go, lock it up, push down the button in the car. We're not stopping at this gas station, because what's our first reaction to a lot of things on this planet? Initially, it's some kind of conflict, an offensive or defensive measure, and imagine traveling 87 billion light years or whatever it was or is, only to be shot at. I mean, like that would be pretty upsetting. I don't know, what's your true take on this? Do you believe that this is? Are you hoping, or do you are you on the side of this is it?
that's actually a great question, because I thought about that very question last night as we were kind of briefly going over this, and it's like, I want to know what it is, but do I hope that it is extraterrestrial? And the answer to that is probably no. I don't hope that it's alien technology. I don't hope that it is, because if it is, we're talking about something that is 5 kilometers wide. If it's extraterrestrial and it's that
Yeah.
big, then we're talking about something big enough to hold who knows how many
Manhattan.
entities though inside of this thing, right? So
Right.
it wouldn't look really good, and I think even if they were coming in peace in that showing that sort of force, then I think people walk away from that maybe afraid, and I would be afraid for everyone if that was alien tech, if it is alien tech coming in. Now it's behaving in weird ways, and the thing I'm going off of is and what I like to always point out, because I know when this initially hit the news months and months ago, a lot of people like, dude, it's just a comet, calm down, it's just a comet. And I'm like, okay, it could be. But I'm like, let's think about this, right? We as human beings, we think there's a lot of people out there that think we're the only ones, there's
Yep.
no way to get here and all those things. But we've sent out Voyager 1 and 2 back in the late 1970s, I think 76, and then
77. 77 was Voyager.
and there's two of them out there, and
Yeah.
they have both left the solar system. They have both been traveling for 50 years, essentially nonstop travel, and have left the solar system. So okay, a billion years from now, assuming they don't run into something and destroy themselves, they will reach something at some point, some other civilized place, and it will be their own three-eye atlas. Like, what is this thing coming in?
Yeah.
It's not a rock, it's not a comet, and it seems to be man-made or human-made, not natural. And it's going to be their very own three-eye atlas. So if that can be the
Right.
case, why can't this be the same thing?
So big difference between 12 kilometers, which is basically Manhattan Island in New York City, and something the size of a minivan. You know,
That
in
that
theory, I
true.
mean, it's unless it becomes like a clown car. Now, let's say it is extraterrestrial. It is another being or race from wherever. We're going to find out. You have hundreds of different type of extraterrestrials that are known. Some of which, on the reptilian insectoid type side, are very aggressive and really not what you want to have stopping by the house. And then when you send out, that Voyager probe going out there, I remember when I heard about it, I was like, wow, this is really cool, but not thinking of the ramifications of, that's like leaving your front door open. We don't know who we're sending a message to, you know, so it gets unnerving. Like, and if they have that kind of capability to travel that far, that quick, there is nothing that I'm aware of publicly that can take on that craft. Now,
And
privately, we have things apparently, our technology, I'm talking about the United States of America technology, is estimated about 250 years ahead of everybody on the planet.
right, right. Now, here's what we have to get our minds away from, and that's why I applaud Abdullah for doing this, stepping out and
Yeah.
being the one to take it on the chin. Because if it ends up being a comment, they're gonna be like, Avi Loeb, dude, you keep saying this, but that
Yep.
needs to be part of the conversation, because you cannot just assume, and I think a lot of people are, because we technically haven't seen anything, any close up image of this thing, for one, and then for two, Avi Loeb has named at least 10 different anomalies, which normally happen in comets, which is not happening in this object. And it's just, you got to get your mind out of the thought process that if you see something flying through space, it's got to be a rock. Now, that is just a silly way to think that anything because it's traveling and moving through space, it has to be a comet, or it has to be an asteroid, or it has to be something natural. That is just ridiculous to stand on unless you have
Right.
data showing that that's the case.
Well, it's interesting, right? If you've watched some of the live feed from the ISS and other space missions, whenever something really interesting comes into play, into view, they cut the feed. So we already have different type of craft that are present. and they always cut the feed to it. Sometimes they don't cut it fast enough, and some people get screenshots and screen grabs, or they're monitoring these, broadcasts so that they can pull in some stuff. There's rumors of a ship that kind of looks like a Vulcan bird of prey that's supposedly is an Anunnaki based craft. And then you have reptilians. I mean, there's so many. I was having a conversation a bunch of years ago, almost a decade ago, with people in the know. And basically, in order for you to get off this planet, shoot a rocket up, shoot a satellite, you have to get permission. And there's reasons for it. Because if you truly got out of the Earth's atmosphere and you went into space, I'm thoroughly convinced from what I've heard and I've seen in discussions with people, you'd see ships facing each other, almost like a giant chessboard. Everybody maneuvering for whatever the humans are and wanting what they want down here. So it would be like a bad scene, almost like two biker groups coming together, rearing to go like, we're gonna go kick your butt, and then you come in with your scooter. You're like, bad timing. So it gets strange.
And see, I'm a person that, because I have not had what a lot of people call extraterrestrial contact, where it's direct with me, right? But I've
Right.
seen crap and I've videotaped crap. So I think it's a good idea when we're talking about this and looking at this, instead of going from the top down, which would be oh, there's all these species, all these races, and this is their goal and this is what they want to do. Instead of starting from there and then working the way down to, yes, there's UFOs, I think we should work our way from, yes, there's UFOs,
Oh,
back
I
out.
agree with you.
Which for a lot of people though, this conversation should be pretty relevant to most people, because if we just start at the bare bones basics, we have things in the sky that we don't know what they are. The governments have all said that that's the case. We've seen these objects in a few cases, which we'll be talking about tonight,
Yep.
land on the ground and beings get out of these objects. We've seen these things come from space and go down into the water. So just starting from there, these are things that we know, right? Without adding all the extra stuff on top. These are things we definitely know. And I think that just knowing this right here is enough to look at an object incoming from interstellar space, and obviously exhibiting mysterious anomalies that we should at least think, is that related to what we know about the things that are happening here. And
Yeah.
that's just a definite 1-2 connection to for a lot of people who are like, dude, why are you guys jumping straight to aliens? Well, we're not jumping straight to aliens,
No.
but what we're
Yeah.
saying is there's weird things happening here that we've cataloged, and that this is also weird. And so these, if weird and weird might be related, is all I'm saying.
Yeah. No. I'm not just jumping to extraterrestrials. We don't know what it is,
You, not
but
just, I'm not saying you. I'm just
yeah,
saying.
yeah. No. I'm just saying in general, it's better to take what people have experienced on Earth, and it's this is very important about what this list you're talking about is. It's over a very long, it's a decent period of time, well prior to any of this modern day computing and technology and artificial intelligence. So that's what's really key here to pay attention to, because the fact of faking stuff or playing around, it made it a lot more difficult to do. And
And
that's really important.
and I think if we help, keep this conversation going like this, we can help restructure the thought process, because a
Yep.
lot of people on the outside look into ufology and say, "Oh, these guys are strange. They're talking about weird stuff." But if we were only having the nuts and bolts, the basic conversation, I don't think they would necessarily look at it that way. But we're going into our first break of the night right here with our good
Sure.
son Bryan Bowden, right here on Space Out Radio After Hours Radio Show. Is alien contact imminent? Likely is at some point. We'll be talking about more. We'll go over 3i Atlas as well, the article written by News Nation, and some quotes in there from Ivy Lowe. Right after the break, guys. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Spaced Out Radio. like you're clear. And T-Bone was asking you, and why aren't we in your car if you don't mind me asking?
Why are we in my car? Because I'm homeless now. I don't. No. I drove my daughter back to college. So and I was hoping to get back sooner, but a couple of roads got shut down, and we took a new way to go, which was kind of cool. But it got dark really, really quick. And actually, as we were heading closer to the west coast of Florida, I'm driving on a pitch black road, and this light just appeared in the sky, and I have it on my dash cam. So when I get back, I'm going to be checking that out. And the last time I was down this road a couple months ago, there was a roadkill on a different road that you take across, and it sure as hell looked like a dog man. So
did you film that?
I have the dash camera, and I pulled out the cards, but I was right around the time when the camera, I let it record all the space before I flip it, and I may have lost it, but who knows? I just downloaded it to a big drive, and hopefully I'm going to get to check it. So,
all right, let me go ahead and welcome a few more people in here who I definitely missed during the opening. Let's see. I didn't get Benno from Oz. Benno from Oz, thank you for coming on in. Also, G, thanks for coming on in. Alien Critter 811, appreciate you coming on in. And let's see. And it's good information. People need to be cautious where they get the information. You don't want to get sucked into the world of Greer, Wilcox, and Goods of the world. It's true. Well, people who come across like they know everything, it's impossible. Okay, it's impossible. So for anyone to pretend that they know everything and have all the answers to this, it's simply not possible for you to know everything. Not at this point. I can't see.
And I don't think it's the world of Greer. It's really more of the cult of Greer, and I say that because people defend him like it was a cult.
Yeah,
that's my opinion. It's not the opinion of SOR or its broadcasters or anybody else.
I'll agree with you. It's totally a fact, and that's a whole nother rabbit hole to go down, the cult mentality of ufology, and maybe we'll do that. Maybe next time we get together, we'll do that as a show, because I talk about it often, and I don't have a problem doing that. So
I talked to a cult member the other day. That's part of the cult, the Billy Meyer, and that's a cult.
No, definitely. And some people don't realize, most people who are in cults don't realize they're in a cult until they have that moment where someone opens their eyes, right?
Until you're selling roses at the airport.
FAP, appreciate you coming on in here tonight. Go ahead.
No, there was someone in there about Star Trek and the Klingons. I do believe the Klingons are based on the reptilians or the insectoids. The creator of Star Trek, Gene Roddenberry, may have mentioned that he talked about like kind of having like a dream or a vision or something. So that may have been put into him in order to make it more palatable for the public to understand that there are different type of species out there.
Potentially. Walter Kokubinski, thank you for coming on in.
Paramarv, that is correct. That's a Roger.
Appreciate you coming on in here. Let's see, who else do we have?
Very nice guy, but
who else do we
sucked into the machine. I should start a cult. There'd be so much more money in my pocket.
Jose Sanchez, thank you for coming on in. Let's see.
Blue Oyster Cult is great. Sorry, I'm just reading the chat while it goes up.
Yeah, let me see here. Stargazer, thank you for coming on in. Well, Vaughn Patrick. Hey, Vaughn Patrick. Long time no see, buddy. Thank you for coming on in. Next year's event, I don't know if it's up yet, but I do believe it is in May of next year. Space Out Radio fan party. Don't think it's posted yet, though.
Yep.
Keep an eye out
I want to
Also,
get you guys out. I want to get you guys on the East Coast. I've been telling Dave, come to the East Coast. It makes it a little bit easier.
true fact. True fact. I wouldn't mind going to these coasts. Never been there. JSCO 77. Appreciate you coming on in.
Well,
Uh,
I had a UFO fly over my house, and my youngest saw 7 of them. And I got, so you're going to see UFOs. The last thing I saw was from a third party who is a non-believer, and they said, can I show you something? And she pointed up, and there was, one right after the other going on an angle up. And then as soon as it hit, I think Canis Minor, no, Cirrus, it just went, boop, they disappeared like they were going into a wormhole. It looked like a convoy.
we're coming right back.
Sure.
5 seconds. Cosmic Joe acknowledged. Cosmic Joe acknowledged. Coming back right now. All right, everybody. Welcome back. Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours Radio Show. We're back half of hour 1 with Sir Knight Bryan Bowden here with us tonight. We're talking about the alien presence. Is there imminent contact on the horizon? There's a lot of reasons to think that that's the case. We're going to make the case here tonight that you should at least be concerned, and definitely something you should be looked at, whether skeptic or non-skeptic. We'll be doing that. Make sure if you miss any of the conversation, jump into archives, absolutely free, youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. So let me go ahead and I took some time to go ahead and create a little graphic here for tonight.
Oh, cool.
We'll just go ahead and take a look at that. So latest on 3i Atlas, we've already been kind of giving our opinions on it, but let's go ahead and check out the latest information on this. This is from News Nation. This came out yesterday. So pretty current information. 3i Atlas this is the title of the story. 3i Atlas may be revving an engine, Harvard professor suggests. So this shout out to Ashley Banfield, Michael Ramsey of News Nation. The Harvard astrophysicist who has openly wondered whether presumed comet 3i Atlas is an alien vessel is sharing some of his latest observations, including what he calls non-gravitational acceleration of the interstellar object. In other words, is 3i Atlas revving an engine as it continues through our solar system? Quote, there was some propulsion that moved it away from its original trajectory, and I would have expected it would lose 10 to 20% of its mass as a result of the recoil, Avi Loeb stated. The prospect of an engine aboard 3i Atlas may also explain why the object registered a blue appearance when its orbit recently came closest to the sun, Loeb says. The color could also come from, quote, a source of artificial light or signature of ionized carbon monoxide for a natural comet, the science professor speculates in a recent blog. Avi Loeb documents anomalies of 3i Atlas, which I think this is definitely important. These tantalizing features are among nearly a dozen anomalies Loeb has documented while analyzing images and data surrounding 3i Atlas over the past several weeks. Others include the object's lack of a traditional comet's tail, its unusual chemical signatures, and its sheer size, comparable to the footprint of Manhattan. Although some observers are skeptical about Loeb's theories, NASA, for the record, says it's a harmless comet that poses no threat. Others have rejoiced at the way the story has gotten non-scientists interested in space. 3i Atlas is expected to reach its nearest point to Earth in late December, if 170 million miles can be considered close. Before leaving the solar system in January, Loeb continues to urge NASA to release high-resolution images taken October 2nd by the space agency's HiRISE camera on the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. He suggests the valuable information has been delayed by the continuing federal government shutdown. How old is 3i Atlas? Renowned physicist speculates. When you have a visitor, quote, when you have a visitor to your backyard, you better know its nature, Loeb said Friday. We can't afford to just adopt the most likely interpretation, which is that it's a natural object. The name 3i Atlas derives from the fact that it's the third known interstellar object to enter our solar system. It was discovered by Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System. So that was the article. Didn't mention anything actually about this companion object, which there's since it's come back from behind the sun, there's been this companion object which also has no.
Yes.
So you heard about that?
Yeah, there's a couple of companion objects that have appeared in the mix. But that, like, what does that say to, again, and this is no discredit to a man that went and got his doctorate. I did not go that route. I studied physics, I studied astronomy, pulled back from that, and I did something else, but I do read a lot on the side. Um, we're making we're making calculations based on what we've experienced previously. And when was the last time something that has come in from that part of the galaxy? And when it did, what is it? A Muamua, right? So maybe it's not alien craft. Maybe these are objects, and this is what it's like from where they come from. So this is why I have a problem with all this. What he's doing. I mean, he's doing a great job to get Harvard on the map, but we don't really know. We've never had this experience before. That is public. All this is public. Privately, what does he know that he's not allowed to say? What do the others know that they're not allowed to say? And that's where I'm struggling with this whole Three-Eye Atlas and companions thing.
See, well, you also mentioned the NASA, which I say never actually sees anything.
Not a straight answer. Yep.
Not a straight answer. So, we're depending on them to give us what would put the case to bed, but one way or the other. It would put the case to bed, right? With the conversation, I'm sure some people out there are so sick and tired of hearing about Three-Eye Atlas, and I can understand that. It's been, part of the conversation for the last few months. But we have the date. We have something that would put the conversation to bed. And once again, no surprise, it's NASA that is kind of holding this back. They're saying it's due to the federal shutdown, but Avi Loeb has mentioned many times that the person that's ahead of this project, or who would have the access to the images, isn't an actual NASA employee. I think he said he's some sort of professor from somewhere else, but isn't an actual NASA employee. So that they would have the ability to do that. It's a piece of paper. They could just release a piece of paper and show exactly what this thing is. So for them not to actually do it is just goes along with the mystique, the what would appear to be obfuscation when it comes to releasing information. Just like you stated, international space station cameras mysteriously go off. We've seen shuttle mission cameras show anomalous things that they don't account for. So it would kind of go into the whole lore that NASA doesn't want to show you what's actually going on.
Well, yeah, there's that aspect of it, but a lot of these, like Avi Loeb has signed and disclosure agreements. He's speaking. These employees can be spoken to. So is it a national security concern? Why not just say the name of the individual, or maybe the individual comes forward and says, what I've seen. They can even be vague on it. I've seen some things, and it leans more towards something more intelligent than an extraterrestrial in nature, than just a regular old space rock. But for some reason, they're not allowing this person to come forward, or these people that know.
Let me ask you this. Do you think, even though this is supposed to be the reason that they can't show us is because of the shutdown, do you think they have shown people within the government this image?
Oh, I think that if this is 100% legit, like we're gonna have contact, there are people that are very much aware of it. I think a lot of the skunk works are aware of it too. People that are working on, reverse engineering of technology, the government within the government, the Majestic 12 people who have a higher clearance than the President of the United States, and they're well aware of it. And this can be detrimental to whatever their narrative is.
And
don't just think they're, because they're Americans or whatever, that they're just for America. They have their own agenda, and that has been a fact since it started.
And so here's the thing, right? So when we, like I say, a lot of people on the surface, even some people I've seen that are, wondering why people don't just go along with the narrative that it's a comet. Like, hey guys, it's probably just a comet. Why don't you just leave it at that? And they're not even. Some of them are not even wanting to entertain the conversation that it's anything else. And I said at the beginning of this show, is because the best thing to do is tie historical things that we know to the reason why some
Yep.
people have this opinion about what this might or might not be.
Sure.
So when I put together a few things here, and actually I'll hold that one for later. Got a few
Yeah.
things here that I put together, and it's a list essentially. And as I said, and I talked to Bryan and Drew before the show, and really what I want to show you is how this, as we put this puzzle together, and we'll do this tonight, it creates a picture that if you walk away from this and then look at 3 Eye Atlas and not even consider that it might be something else, then I don't know what's going on. But let's go ahead and start out with,
Sure.
times where extraterrestrials may have attempted to make their presence known to humanity, right? And I think they've been doing it all along. I think potentially the drone situation was also that. But let's go back and kind of put the puzzle together, and let's start out with the Washington D.C. flap, 1952, right?
Sure.
So
Love that one.
this is going to be, I'm going to go over educational piece for those who may not be familiar with this. So this will be a learning experience for some, and we'll also discuss it. But on the night of July 19th, 1952, during the peak in UFO sightings, Washington National's airport's air traffic controller Edward Nugent detected 7 unidentified objects on radar 15 miles southwest of the city. His superior, Harry Barnes, confirmed the radar's accuracy and noted the object's unusual movements. Controllers Howard Cochran and Joe Zacco also saw unidentified blips and a bright light on their radar, which quickly disappeared. As more objects appeared, Barnes contacted Andrews Air Force Base, where Airman William Brady reported seeing an orange fireball. Capital Airlines pilot S.C. Pierman observed 6 fast-moving lights over 14 minutes, coordinating with Barnes. At Andrews, some objects were identified as stars and meteors, but Staff Sergeant Charles Davenport noted an orange-red light making sudden movements. Both radar centers tracked an object over a radio beacon, which vanished simultaneously at 3 a.m. 2 F-94 Starfire jets arrived, and the objects disappeared from radar, reappearing when the jets left, leading Barnes to suspect they were monitoring radio traffic. The objects were last detected at 5:30 a.m. So mass sighting, this is from July 19th, a period of July 19th through July 29th, 1952, where these things were in there every day. They were detecting them. A lot of people were aware of these objects. They saw these objects. And you have to wonder, because there's a group of people out there that think that say, and I don't know which is true or not, that extraterrestrials are waiting for us to ascend or to get to a point before they show themselves to us. And I can say that Washington UFO flap was a case where they were doing the exact opposite. It seems they were trying to show themselves to people. And if you believe the whole MJ-12 thing and the extraterrestrial meeting with President Eisenhower, if you believe that all, and I can break down a timeline to make sense on that, then it just seems like that's a moment where, the whole waiting till we ascend is kind of thrown out the window, and they're trying to contact us in that moment. What do you think
Right.
about that sighting?
So I think that sighting, I think what happened in that sighting, because there's other information, no one truly knows whether Eisenhower signed it or didn't sign that agreement. Now,
Right.
there was someone who has a book coming out, and I forgot his name, MK, I think it's MK something. He's writing a book called Hush. and former a fighter pilot, and he's claiming, this gentleman, that Eisenhower didn't sign it, and that's like the 12th person I've heard say that. But that's when Majestic 12 was created, because Eisenhower wouldn't sign it, and so they went forward. One of the generals said, "We'll create a new organization, and we'll sign the agreement," and that was almost yes, MD Silly. Sorry, thank you very much, Tartar Sauce. Um, and basically, I think that was, sign the agreement, or we're going to make it known to everybody. Because I think the ETs want to, they some of them want to have a dialogue with humans, because we have a lot more potential, and we're a lot more powerful than we know. We're pretty arrogant, but as far as our abilities and reaching to a certain level, they call it vibrating higher, we have yet to ascend to that level. But I think over that time period, we have ascended dramatically. And that's why they're making more of a presence now compared to 3i Atlas. But that was like almost like, either sign the agreement or we're going to let them know, your world know. And what better way to get to the leaders of the country than go right to the Capitol and
And,
fly right over it?
and
Truman wasn't too thrilled.
And
None of
see,
them were.
I agree with that. I agree. And see, Truman, and so I'll just break that down because you're talking about that. I've done a show recently on that. And so the whole MJ12 thing. So it's just the timeline for me makes sense. And I definitely think this is kind of where, maybe this new effort to reach out to humanity may have started happening. But you have the Roswell 1947, which is under Truman, and then supposedly they recover a craft. Supposedly they recover a being that was still alive, and supposedly this being lived until 1952. And this is all supposed alleged, but also in 1952 is this UFO flap. So is the UFO flap related to the extraterrestrial being that they said lived until 1952, which is part of the Roswell crash? So we don't know. But you
It,
also have
it
12 formed that
right,
year as well.
right. And it could, one of the things that's always been in the back of my mind, when a lot of times you see a massive public um, viewing of these craft, that we're going to discuss tonight, is that it's almost as if they're looking for one of their own, like, like that whole thing, never leave a man behind, type of mentality. And maybe they were there looking to pick up their, their being and take them back to wherever. We want to pick up their bodies, and we, just like we bury in Arlington and we rescue people, we want the remains back, and, to have a record of them. This very well could have been a little bit of that as well.
And to not go off this too far to the side, but even
Yeah.
James Fox talks about that in the Virginia case,
Yep.
where the girls came across the bean, and then later, I guess that night or next day, there was another craft that came in that seemed to be searching for.
Exactly.
And it
Great.
makes sense to me. A lot of people say, "Oh, don't put your human ideas on this," but it would make sense that if you lost a crew member, you would want to go retrieve that said crew member.
You have to understand something. This is from my knowledge, my research, a lot of people, insiders, and all this other stuff. When you're talking about the little grays, the small grays, they're extraterrestrial biological entities. Okay. There is some intelligence there, but they're not the most intelligent. They're not like the tall grays. Tall grays are more of the ambassadors. Those are the ones making deals. They have, they're dealing with other species. But it's still, you got to understand, this is part of the network. Okay. And when a piece of that network disappears, they look for it. They have beacons for it. And they can't rest until they find it. It's very similar in a really weird way in our military. When you have a covert operation taking place, a lot of the military is told to police their brass. Don't leave any evidence behind, and leaving an entity behind is the greatest evidence ever. You know, they've been visiting us for hundreds of millions of years, whatever you want to put the number on it, and they've been doing it pretty quietly. You know, I would want to get, you know, people back too.
So and you know, the reason why we're laying this out is because you know we're trying to make the case tonight that we have historical cases that that point towards extraterrestrials attempting to make contact with humans. Now, outside of that, and why they're doing it, and who told them to do it, or you know, we don't know. We don't know, but we can at least say that these things happened and kind of put them all in a nice little package to show that when you look at them all together, it's pretty mind blowing. I'm going to start the next one here.
Yeah.
This one right here, obviously, is they're coming in numbers. They're over the city every single day for a period of 2 weeks. You got to keep that in mind. Every day, 2 weeks over the capital of the United States, these UFOs were seen, spotted, cataloged, and so we'll move on to the next one, which is one that I hadn't necessarily heard about, but this one, and maybe you're familiar with this, but we have 1957, Levelland, Texas UFO, 1957, on the evening of November 2nd, 1957. And I actually have to run through this. We only have 2 minutes left, so we really won't be able to talk.
Sorry.
I'll read it, and then we'll go ahead and pick it back up after the break. On the evening of November 2nd, 1957, 2 immigrant farm workers, Pedro Salcedo and Joe Salas, reported a UFO sighting to the Levelland police. They described a blue flash of light and a rocket-shaped object that caused their truck's engine to die. Officer A.J. Fowler initially dismissed the report as a joke. However, an hour later, Jim Wheeler reported a similar incident with an egg-shaped object blocking his path, causing his vehicle to die until the object departed. Throughout the night, multiple reports came in. A couple experienced their headlights and radio dying. Jose Alvarez encountered an object that stopped his engine, and Newell Wright saw a 100-foot long object that caused his car to stall. Each time the object flew away in the operation. Frank Williams, Ronald Martin, and James Long also reported similar experiences. By 1:30 a.m., Sheriff Weir Clem and Fire Chief Ray Jones had seen objects, with Jones experiencing engine and light issues. The Levelland police received a total of 15 UFO-related reports that night, with Officer Fowler noting the caller's excitement. The reports ceased shortly after. So that's a second case, and that's one of the more obscure ones. And I think that's good.
It is.
If you've never heard of that, then you're probably like, wow. Some of the things that stick out to me for that is the egg-shaped object, which when we talk about egg-shaped, you got to look forward to what just happened with Jake Barber. Not actually Jake Barber, but the video that Ross Coulthard released during the Jake Barber interview, which showed a retrieval of an egg-shaped object. A lot of people laughed at the egg and made egg jokes, but historically, the egg-shaped craft has been part of things that have been reported, and which leans back into how important history is to be able to look at what has happened, what we can pretty much confirm has happened, and kind of weigh that against what we're currently experiencing. And I think this is another case that lines up with things that we have experienced. And one that you could probably take to the bank. Did you have like maybe 20 seconds real quick to kind of just say something about that?
Sure. I think they were doing the same thing, retrieval. And I think the egg is almost like a specific type of vessel that if there's someone is injured, they'll grab them. And it has like a life support system in there, as opposed to UFOs or orbs flying low doing that crisscross pattern to search.
That is awesome. And we're going to actually stop right there. We'll kind of get back into that case and more right after this break. Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours Radio Show. We're going to make the case. Alien contact could be imminent. See you in a minute.
Conversations that move the needle.
Conversations that move the needle.
You're listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio.
You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
All right. See you in 5, Brian.
Yep.
All right.
Thanks, Mark.
Welcome back. Spaced Out Radio After Hours Radio Show. We're in after hour number 2. We're about to get back from the radio side here in about 30 seconds. Let me bring our guest back on stage, Sir Knight Bryan Bowden.
That's me. I'm enjoying the chat. It's excellent.
Yeah,
A lot of egg jokes.
yeah. These guys, these funny
No, it's
guys.
great. It's just, you know what, we're talking about a subject that is really, for lack of a better word, out there, and why not? You know,
Yep.
it's going to scramble people's minds, so I'm going to go along with everybody.
Here we go. All right, everybody. Welcome back. Spaced Out Radio After Hours Radio Show. After hour number 2. Back in the building with Sir Knight Bryan Bowden. As we're sitting here talking about the alien presence, is alien contact imminent? I can make the case. We're going to make the case here tonight that it at least is something you should be thinking about. 3-eye atlases out there. You should be concerned, or you should not be concerned. You'll figure out at the end of the show. If you miss any of this conversation tonight, which is going to be a good one, spacedoutradio.com. Let's see here, as we are back. And we were actually going over a case. We were going over multiple cases that kind of frame the idea that, the ETs over time, and I guess we're going back to 1952, it's about 75 years of times where they have tried to contact human beings. I'm going to make the case here. The Leveling UFO case we just went over, Leveling, Texas, 1957. We were talking about how there was egg-shaped craft reported there. Some of the common things you hear: car radios dying, engines dying from probably some sort of electromagnetic field or something along those lines. What did you say anything about that? Did you add anything to that before we move on to the next one?
No, I mean, we're pretty good. I do believe the egg-shaped craft is actually some kind of healing survival vehicle that will take, if they're injured for whatever means, will take the being back and start repairing itself. I think a lot of the other crafts could be not really orbs, but scouts, and with their technology of what I've seen and read in the past, anything that is putting out an EMF or needs energy is going to draw it from you. So it's going to kill your battery instantaneously.
And I was making a point earlier that the egg-shaped craft has been something that has been talked about across ufology for many years.
Yeah.
And when you talk about egg-shaped, could be determined as egg, could be oblong spear, could be propane tank, could be tic-tac UFO, could fall up under any of those things. But I guarantee you one thing, that if you saw any one of those things, it would probably be something very exciting. It would be a very exciting.
It would be extremely exciting, and it keeps going throughout. It's hard-boiled facts. Thanks, Blackster.
For sure. So moving on, we have the Belgian UFO wave. So the Belgian UFO wave, this is going to be another one of those ones here where there's multiple people who have cited craft. So it isn't just one person somewhere who, a lot of people say some person who was drunk off alcohol or under the influence of some sort of drug. We're talking about, these are all cases where there were multiple individuals who saw these things, and this is the reason why we're kind of going over these. So the Belgian UFO wave was a series of triangular UFOs sightings in Belgium from November 1989 to April 1990. Initially, reports were filed weeks after the events describing large, low-flying objects with a flat, triangular shape and lights underneath. The wave peaked on March 30th, 1990, when an unknown object was detected on radar, prompting 2 Belgian Air Force F-16s to investigate. Although the pilots did not see the object, 143 people reported witnessing it over the next 2 weeks, with more reports following in months after. The Belgian Air Force later released a report on the incident on March 30th, 1990 at around 11 p.m. The Control Reporting Center at Glans received reports of 3 unusual lights moving towards Thornby Gemblo, southeast of Brussels. The waiver was sent to confirm the sighting. About 10 minutes later, a second set of lights was observed moving towards the first, prompting traffic center control and Semerzak to track one object on radar. Consequently, two F-16 fighters from Bavochin Air Force Base was scrambled. Witnesses reported seeing the formation maintain relative positions while moving slowly across the sky. Over the next hour, the F-16s attempted 9 interceptions, achieving radar locks on 3 occasions, which were later identified as locks on each other. The pilots did not see any of the reported sightings or maneuvers and only locked on to other F-16s. The other contacts were attributed to Bragg scattering and atmospheric interference. After midnight, contact became sporadic, with the final confirmed lock at 12:40 a.m. The F-16s returned to base shortly after 1. Meanwhile, the waiver reported 4 lights in a square formation making jerky movements before disappearing in 4 directions around 1:30 a.m. They also heard a low engine noise and saw an object resembling a helicopter with a turbine. So I don't know really what to say to that. I mean, this is definitely, just sightings that happened over a period of about a year. Don't really have much to say to that except for the jerky movements is something obviously that stood out to me. And this is just something a lot of people saw. Also, this low engine noise, an object resembling a helicopter and a turbine. We always hear that UFO sightings are usually accompanied by right thereafter either some sort of jets being scrambled or some sort of helicopter escort is what they say for those sort of cases. Did you have anything to say to that?
Well, yeah. I mean, prior to that, there was another triangle flap and multiple sightings for a while in the Hudson Valley in New York. Same style crafts.
Later. We'll be talking.
Yeah, yeah. And it's happened numerous times there, but it seems like it's moving from one area doing what they're doing their search, their grid pattern up and down like you would survey, and then it moves over and it goes into a different area like Belgium, and then sometimes they move back in. It's interesting, but not knowing the full details of what we had militarily there in Belgium, but there may have been we were at around that time transporting a lot of high-powered multiple warhead nuclear weapons, and they may be seeking out what was going on, like, okay, what's going on, why are they moving these dangerous weapons from point A to point B and through Europe.
And before I forget, because currently there's a president here in the United States who's talking about resuming nuclear tests coming soon. And when I heard that, it just made me immediately think about would that be something that would definitely up the activity of the extraterrestrial presence if now all of a sudden we're testing nuclear? Because if we do it, obviously other countries are going to do it if they aren't already doing it. So is that new it'd almost take us back to the 1940s when we were originally doing testing, when these things all started spiking to begin with.
And the Cold War, Russia's resumed testing, China's testing, North Korea is trying to figure it out. So, I mean, when in Rome, do what they do, and we're going to test. You have a president in office right now that he's done a lot as far as peace, creating peace, but he is not someone that is bluffing when it comes to things. So you're definitely going to want to test not only warheads and current projectiles, rockets and delivery systems, but with the whole hypersonic missiles that are being created by Russia and being given to some of the countries that are not fans of ours. We're going to have to keep pace with that, and that would surely trigger trigger a like what's going on type of observance from other extraterrestrials.
Yeah, you gotta wonder, and hopefully he doesn't. We don't need to be doing anything else with nuclear weapons. So hopefully
Yeah.
that's just a lot more of hot air coming out of the White House. But let's go ahead and move on to the next one. There we
Yes,
got.
sir.
Let's see the Landrum incident, obviously from 1980. I won't consider that a mass sighting. I mean, we had a couple people that were involved with that. Obviously, it's the case of uh, the two ladies and their grandson that were in the car. They saw this triangle craft come in trouble, I guess, and it was coming across the road. Fire shooting out the bottom. They experienced burns on their skin, escorted by a bunch of helicopters. A lot of people think that that wasn't even an extraterrestrial craft, actually. Some people think that that was reverse engineered. I don't think so, but a lot of people are saying that. What do you think
It's
about Atlantis?
it's you're once you got to the 80s and the later 80s and around then, I think you're getting the testing of some reverse engineered craft, and they're working the bugs and kinks out of it. So it very well could be something that was reverse engineered. Um, and I think one of the reasons why it had issues is they never really truly got the propulsion system correctly. So they were
But
using certain materials that really shouldn't have been used.
I could see that, but it's just the shape, a triangle shape. I mean, a diamond shape just doesn't make sense for any sort of flight. It just doesn't make sense at all. And I don't see any way we would be able to put that up in the sky and even attempt to make that fly. Unless we, the only way I could see that work is the same way Elon Musk uses those stabilizers for
Yep.
landing. Now, if it had something like that, obviously to keep it upright, maybe, but it just there isn't a world where I see if it was reverse engineered that we'd be able to make that stand upright and fly that thing without any sort of stabilizers on it. Just doesn't make sense to me. But we don't know. We'll leave that one. I didn't really want to add that one, but
Yeah.
we'll go to the next one here, which is the Phoenix Lights, one of the biggest mass sightings
One of my favorites.
States. And obviously, if you didn't know about the Phoenix Lights, we'll go ahead and give you a little spiel on it. March 13th, 1997, multiple witnesses across Arizona reported seeing mysterious lights in the sky. The sightings began around 7:55 in Henderson, Nevada, with a large V-shaped object, and continued with reports of reddish-orange lights over Paulden and Prescott Valley, Arizona. Tim Lay and his family observed the lights from 65 miles away, initially appearing as 5 separate lights in an arc, which then formed an upside-down V as they approached. The object, resembling a 60-degree carpenter square with 5 lights, moved slowly over them towards Paistawa Peak and Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport. Actor Kurt Russell also reported the lights to air traffic control. Between 8:30 and 8:45 p.m., witnesses in Glendale saw the lights pass overhead, and amateur astronomer Mitch Stanley observed them through a telescope, identifying them as individual airplanes. At 10 p.m., numerous people in Phoenix reported a row of brilliant lights hovering or slowly falling, leading to numerous photographs and videos. Author Robert Schaefer described it as possibly the most widely witnessed UFO event in history. Explanation for the incident suggests it consisted of 2 unrelated events linked to Operation Snowbird, a pilot training program by the Air National Guard. The first incident, perceived as a flying triangle, involved 5 A-10 jets. This is reportedly 5 A-10 jets flying in formation under visual flight rules, displaying steady lights. The second incident, described as a row of lights, was due to a flare drop exercise by different A-10 jets from the Maryland Air National Guard. The U.S. Air Force explained the flares created a, quote, balloon effect, making them appear to hover. A Maryland A&G pilot confirmed his involvement in the flare drop. Comparisons with known military flare drops showed similarities, and the luminosity of the flares matched the lights observed from Phoenix. What do you think about that? That seems like an explain away there at the end, making
Yeah,
an explanation.
I think they had a UFO craft appear And for what reason, I don't know why such a large and it was a large craft. It appeared, and there was no way to hide it. So they did the next best thing, and they sent out a couple of pilots. They dropped the flares or whatever you want, Chinese lanterns, just to say, hey, we did it. I really, one of my favorite UFO sightings ever, and it's basically the start or the beginning of modern day UFO sighting globally, like by a larger audience, bringing everybody into the fray. Even the governor of Arizona witnessed it. He joked, yeah, he joked about it initially because he has to, kind of play it off. But in other interviews after, he was concerned, but he wasn't going to get any answers for it. No one's going to get a straight answer.
Yeah, and the whole, playing it off at first. I mean, everybody always asks questions, and I think he stated someone asked him after the fact, who was in your ear, who told you to brush this thing off, because he comes out later and says he actually saw the thing and confirms what he saw. But it's like, okay, well, in the moment, then who persuaded you to take that route, the route that you took, right? And it seems like it's the play that all government outlets do when they're attempting to what we call cover something up.
Yeah, I'm going to point to something, and people may not like him, but I'm going to point to something that was stated by the former governor, Jesse Ventura, who was a Navy SEAL. When he won the election, because he was like, grassroots, the government wanted to find out how the hell he did it. So he remarked, he said he went downstairs to the basement of the governor's mansion, and down there surrounding him, he was sitting in a room, and surrounding him were like 27 individuals that worked for the government. He goes, and it scared the hell out of me because they look like you, me, and everybody else. I think he had a talking to, like, you're going to blow this off. You're not going to say a damn thing, and everything will be fine. And that scared him enough to walk away because, and then the period of time he waited, it was a long time. I mean, it's only recently, probably 20 plus years, almost, before he really admitted to, yeah, I saw it.
And I think the beautiful thing is that the moment that we're going through right now, with watching other cover-ups taking place right in front of our eyes, and we actually get an insight into how, we've always thought we knew how it plays out, but we're actually getting to see how real-time cover-ups play out, and it actually affirms and confirms a lot of the feelings that we have about things that people call conspiracies. It's like you can no longer say conspiracy when we now know what the playbook for a government cover-up is.
Yeah, again, and no disrespect to whoever wants to follow along with the disclosure movement that's coming right now, all these hearings and stuff. I believe the pilots actually saw the TikTok video and the Nimitz many, many years prior to it becoming public. I thought, oh, this is interesting. And then it became public, and everybody's like, I was kind of shaking my head like, this was released. I don't remember how I got the videos or seen them, but I know I saw them well prior to the public knowledge of it through the papers. I believe those pilots, without a doubt. And I love the fact that this has given pilots free rein to finally get things off their chest without being fired. But there's a lot of smoke and mirrors going on. And I don't believe the other players involved, a lot of them in this disclosure movement. And I think it's smoke and mirrors, like, look over here while they're doing something else elsewhere. This is the same thing with Phoenix Lights. This is totally out of the control of, the Majestic 12, the government, the secret government, whatever you want. And they were doing something there. They were looking again, when they make their presence known like that, it is an emergency mission. And that's why they're doing what they're doing. And I think they got it. And they got what they wanted or what they needed, and they took off. And the only way for the government to explain it is Yeah, we sent up 5 Cessnas and we dropped flares.
So, and we go moving from the Phoenix Lights. We're talking about thousands of people, right, who has saw
Yeah.
that. So
Oh
let's
yeah.
move on to one that's less known, which is the Stevensville Lights. One that I like to always bring up. But
Stephenville is great.
the
Yeah, I like
Stevensville
that.
refers to a mass sighting event in January 2008, where numerous residents of Stevensville, Texas, reported seeing a large, silent, and brightly lit object in the sky. Witnesses described it as being much larger than a commercial craft, moving fast and exhibiting intense lights, which led to significant local and national media coverage. The U.S. Air Force initially claimed no aircraft were in the area, but later admitted to a dozen F 16 fighter jets flying there that night, though some witnesses remain unconvinced that the jets explain the sighting. This is witnesses were hundreds of people, including locals, business leaders, law enforcement, and pilots. The size described as being very large. Some say a mile wide or bigger than a
Oh
Walmart.
yeah.
Lights bright, intense, and strobing white lights, sometimes described as forming an arc. Movement was silent and moving at high speeds, low to the ground. Shape, one witness described it as a flying Dorito, and another as delta shaped. And the Air Force initially stated, again, no planes were in the area, but later confirmed that nearly a dozen F 16s were present. Some analysis of radar data suggests the object was moving much faster than the F 16s at high speeds. The event garnered worldwide attention, covered on national news shows like Larry King Live, Subject Interest, although there's going to be skeptics to that. But what do you have to say about that sighting?
There was a crash. Not, it doesn't get reported, but there was a crash in the Stephenville Lights in Texas.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that.
And, yeah, well, there was, and there was definitely activity in the area. That craft, whatever the craft was having major problems. And it's very similar to another case in the same area where there was a crash or they're recovered by extraterrestrial that lived for a little bit and they buried it. But there was a crash there. They don't talk about it much.
I definitely think I heard that part where one, and there's supposedly a cemetery that you can go to where they had actually buried it. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, that was prior. And again, these things are, it's like, okay, you got to understand how these creatures or beings operate. Not all of them, but a lot of them. You know, it's kind of like, I'm going to use a simple thing. It's like an Apple tracker. Okay. They know when, you know, they keep track of everything at once. And when something falls off or something disappears or someone disappears, there's a beacon, and they're looking for that beacon and that signal, depending on how, you know, how well that being is adjusted to the atmosphere and the, you know, the conditions of Earth. It may not adjust well to this planet for multiple reasons. Kind of like, you know, what James Fox was discussing down there in Virga, you know, Virginia or whatever.
Yeah,
Forget my Spanish. Virginia. Yep. That being itself was injured big time, and it was scared. And it was, you know, with the red eyes, it's nocturnal. It's being seen during the day. It's blind. There's so many different variables involved in it. And I think that some of these beings, like if you had a crash right now outside your house and you saw a gray alien lying there, you know, you're going to go over, take pictures, whatever. There is, you know, I'm not, you know, I'd love to pick one up, but there's a really good chance you pick one up, you're going to be dead pretty soon. They're very toxic beings. We're not used to it. It's more silicone based than, you know, flesh. And they know about that. We've been visited by beings that are based on silicone. And the WOW response got a response in a crop circle, and they are a triple helix silicone based being.
All right. It's triple silicone based. I don't know, but we'll go ahead and talk more with Sir Knight Bryan Bowden about this and other sightings that we have on this list here tonight at Spaced Out Radio, because alien contact could be imminent. It might be knocking on the door. What is Three Islands? I don't know. But we have cases. We'll go over more after the break. All right, we are clear, and I'll just because I have a couple more on this list before I get in. There's a whole school part that I want to get into, but so let me just go to the next one while we're on break here, which is Shag Harbor.
That's great.
1960.
Yeah, that's great.
The Shag Harbor is in Nova Scotia, Canada. October 4th, 1967, more than 20 witnesses. On October 4th, 1967, around 11:20 p.m., multiple witnesses in Shag Harbor, Nova Scotia, reported a lit, low-flying object crashing into the water. Witnesses described hearing a whistle, a whoosh, and a loud bang before the object floated briefly about 250 to 300 meters offshore and then sank. Local resident Laurie Wickens and his friend first reported the sighting to the RCMP, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, believing it was a downed aircraft. Within 15 minutes, RCMP officers arrived and alerted the Rescue Coordination Center in Halifax. Fishing boats and a Canadian Coast Guard cutter searched the area but found no survivors, debris, or bodies. By the next morning, all commercial, private, and military craft were confirmed, accounted for. The case was officially classified as a UFO report, prompting a Navy-led underwater search. For 3 days, the fleet diving unit Atlantic found no evidence of any object. The Shag Harbor incident remains unexplained. And obviously, if it hit the water, then it's likely considered a USO at that point and likely wouldn't be there.
Yep.
What was
USO.
your input on the Shag Harbor?
I thought that was the
USO,
first.
Okay.
Yeah, USO, 100% USO, and I think whoever was driving it didn't know what the hell they were doing. That's why it kind of like it, it hit there, and they just. It's kind of like taking your kid out for their license. You're like, oh my god, no, don't hit the brake. That's what I think it was. I think it was a mess up on the operator of the vehicle, and then someone took over, and then it went USO.
All right, I'm gonna go to this last one before we do the school stuff and
Sure.
Hudson Valley Wave. So this is what you were talking about earlier. This is New York, USA, 1982 to 1986. Hundreds of witnesses, boomerang-shaped lights repeatedly seen across the region. Overview of UFO sightings from March 83 to summer of 1984. Numerous UFO sightings were reported in the Hudson Valley region of the northeastern United States, including Westchester, Dutchess, Putnam counties in New York, and Fairfield County in Connecticut. Witnesses described large, noiseless, often in V shapes or circles, illuminated by white, red, or green lights. These objects could shoot straight up and hover for long periods. Ufologist Philip Imbrogno claimed guards at the Indian Power nuclear plant reported seeing a 900-foot UFO hovering over the plant on June 14th and July 24th, 1984 for 15 minutes. One guard described it as resembling helicopters in a V formation and mentioned that guards prepared shotguns, although Imbrogno admitted there was no documentation. John Brassaforte, a powerful authority security coordinator, dismissed the reports as hysteria and speculation, stated that the officer did not arm themselves and suggested Imbrogno might have exaggerated the witnesses' accounts. A spokesman for the New York Power Authority and Sergeant Spiro of the New York State Police believe the sightings were Cessna 152s flown by pranksters, noting that at the plant is a common landmark for pilots. Brian Norris of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission confirmed they had no documentation of the sighting despite receiving a FOIA request from Imbrogno. So what were you saying about that?
Phil's a solid guy. He was spot on with his research, one of the best researchers out there. And they do have, there are snipers at Indian Point, and they're prepared. I've actually seen USOs in the Hudson River going north up towards that area myself, because I lived off the Hudson River in the Bronx. Also, there was a nurse that came out of Westchester Medical, which is a pretty big hospital. It's, very, very large. and she looked up, and it was over a mile-long UFO above the hospital, just hovering there.
That is crazy.
Over a mile long. She was just like blown away by it. I remember asking my dad, like, "Hey, can we go take a look?" And he's like, "You're crazy," because I didn't have a car at that point. But great. This is what I was trying to say. This happens, right? And then you get into the Belgium, and then you get into some other waves that come. Prior to this, someone mentioned it, Gulf Breeze was a really big hotspot. Gulf Breeze, Florida. But there's also rumors that there are bases within the Hudson Valley, underground bases. And don't forget, this is where a communion comes from, because Whitley had his house up there, Whitley Strieber. I brought in, I do CE5s.
We're coming
and
back.
I brought it. Yeah.
Okay. All right, everybody. Welcome back. Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show on the back half of hour 2 with our guest, Sir Knight Bryan Bowden. And we're sitting here talking about alien contact being imminent. Three Eye Atlas is up here. We still have questions about that. We're going over cases right now that happened here on the Earth, United States of America, plus other locations. We'll be talking about some of that and more, and actually getting into a really important part for me that I wanted to save till last, which is when we talk about mass sightings and the ones that we've already gone over. If you total all the people that were involved in all those different sightings we've gone over on this show, you're in the thousands and thousands of observers. So this segment here is pretty, dear to me, because I think the school sightings are the most important ones.
Yep.
And all questions of why they choose schools to go with this. Now, I'm going to start off with one you would think it's the one everyone knows about, but it's actually one that I recently found out about and was intrigued by this. It is the Broadhaven school sighting in the UK, 1977. So raise your hand if you've never heard of this one, but this is definitely one of the school sightings, 1977. There were 14 children, initially 20 plus involved in follow-up. Children saw a silver-shaped UFO in a nearby field. In 1977, the area known as the Welsh Triangle or Broadhaven Triangle or Dyfed Triangle was the site of alleged UFO sightings. On February 4th, 1977, 14 children reported seeing a yellow cigar-shaped craft land near Broadhaven Primary School, along with a silver creature. On February 17th, teachers and other witnesses also claimed to have seen the craft. On April 19th, 1977, the owner of Haven Fort Hotel in Little Haven reported seeing an upside-down saucer and 2 humanoid creatures in nearby fields. A Ministry of Defense investigator found no evidence of these events and suggested they might have been pranks. In 2024, Ellery investigated these claims for BBC Three's Paranormal Series 2. So the Broadhaven, and I'll say this, and I didn't have the image ready to show tonight, but if you look at the image, reminds you of the other school sightings where they have the group of kids, and I think this is the only photo from this particular sighting, but it shows the kids standing together, about 5, 6, 7 of them, and they're all holding painted pictures of what they saw. It's very similar to school sighting that happened like 20 years later, roughly, and they saw the same thing. And it's always a question of why they would contact the school. Had you ever heard of this particular sighting in the UK?
Yeah, I've heard about it. It's really, really one of those that isn't talked about much. But what is talked about is the other sighting and the similarities. If you know a little bit of, you just do some research on Broadhaven, you'll see, compare that to what took place with, the African area and the African school, considering and that these beings are trying to repopulate their own race. That's one of the theories of why they're here. Besides, what if And this has happened numerous times before with many of their own experiencers and people that have had extraterrestrial children that they were unaware of until later on. Sometimes they may drop off a couple of the hybrids and see what the interactions are like, and then they got to pick them up. So I'm a little bit like, was this a pickup? Like kind of like the school bus picking up the kids that were intermingling in with other children, and just to see the interaction in the intermingling, or was this also something where they knew what children were there and who they were going to be abducting down the line? Because a little bit after this, we get the whole star children stories, that there are star children that have been created and placed in on planet that are going to help us, vibrate higher.
Yeah, it's hard for me to go down that path.
I know
I
it's extremely
possible
out there.
I can see a world where it's definitely plausible, but just at the base level, we had a craft show up at a school and a being got out of just at the base level. That's wild enough.
Oh yeah.
Without anything other than that. That there by itself is wild enough and makes you have to open your eyes to why they did it. And then you can go a lot of different ways on the why part of it, but that's one of the first ones. But I wanted to start out with that one because it was one that is not really talked about. However, if I really wanted to go in chronological order, so I'll kind of jump back in chronological order at this point. That's 1977. Now, the first one that you know about, which I'll skip, I think I have the slides for two. Okay, 1966, which is the Westall school sighting. This is the first one that we know about. Likely ones have happened before this, but just to give you an idea, this particular sighting, which would be the first one we technically know about, had 200 plus students and teachers who witnessed this particular incident. And the Westall school site UFO school sighting occurred on April 6, 1966 in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia, involving multiple witnesses, including students and a teacher from Westall High School. The object was described as round with a dome top and appeared white, gray, or silver. It reportedly descended behind trees into the Grange, an open area south of the school, and was said to be pursued by 5 unidentified craft. Sean Matthews, who was vacationing at the Grange, described the object as having a slight purple hue and being about twice the size of a family car. Witnesses had differing accounts of the object's behavior, with some claiming it took off after landing and others saying it hovered. When students investigated the Grange, they reported finding a landing site with varying descriptions, such as a circle of grass that was burnt, boiled, or pressed down, with reports of 1 to 3 circles. On April 9th, 1966, Air Force personnel and UFO enthusiasts visited the site but found nothing significant. The landowner subsequently burned the field to deter further visitors. The sighting has been commemorated through documentaries, reunions, and a local UFO playground. So that would have been the first one. Then next would have been the one we just went over on Broadhaven. So what on Westall?
I think it was just, an issue with the craft, and it just landed. I don't think it was anything more than that. The crafts that we talk about, later on, where the school children are seeing the teachers, they're significantly larger vehicles. It's a different type of vehicle, and it's almost seems purposeful. That's the difference. I think this was more of like, we have a problem, let's go fix something quickly and then take off. Especially with the hovering, like, you fix, kind of like a timing belt. I don't want to get, I don't know how these craft are created, but, sometimes if your timing belt goes, the old, GM products, if you'll always see somebody at a GM keep a pair of pantyhose in the glove box, because you can tie pantyhose together around your timing belt, and then if your timing belt went, you can get to point A to point B. So I think that West Hall was more of a let's fix it and go, and then the other ones are more purposeful. It was meant to be seen.
So, and once again, mass sighting, over 200 plus students and teachers involved in that particular sighting. Then we move on to one that another one I was totally unaware of, but should be known, which is the Voronezh school sighting, Russia, or USSR rather, 1989. 30 plus children and adults in a park. Witnesses described a craft landing and seeing tall beings. The Voronezh UFO incident occurred September 27th, 1989, when a group of children, so this wasn't actually at schools, just with children, when a group of children in Voronezh, Soviet Union, reported seeing a UFO and an alien. The children described a pink glow in the sky, followed by a deep red ball that hovered and released a three-eyed alien and a robot. They claim the alien used a ray gun to make a 16-year-old boy disappear. Although the children were primary witnesses, Lieutenant Sergei Matyev also reported seeing a flying body. The Interior Ministry considered deploying troops if the object reappeared. On October 9th, 1989, TASS reported that more youth confirmed seeing a flying saucer, and Dr. Silanov claimed to have confirmed the landing site using biolocation, a method criticized by Western experts. The incident was widely publicized as part of the Soviet government's, quote, openness policy, leading to numerous UFO reports. The Communist Party newspaper Sovietskaya Kultura also covered the story, asserting its seriousness. The incident sparked interest in UFO tourism, with tours of Voronezh being sold for 59 rubles, whatever that equates to. The story bore similarities to tales in the American magazine saga, though TASS reporters believed the witnesses were unaware of it. The U.S. show A Current Affair also covered the event. Wow, Current Affair, that's throwback. But with that being said, Russia, and I would like to know, because obviously we know George Knapp had gone to Russia right after the fall of the Soviet Union and obtained UFO documents. And I would be interested to know if maybe this sighting was confirmed in some of the documents that he had obtained when leaving Russia, allegedly obtained from individuals in Russia, right?
Yeah. I'm just gonna say, as regarding this, a lot of this stuff coming out of the former Soviet Union, even years later, I think is very suspect. And I don't necessarily believe that it was what they say it was. But Russia also has been contacted by beings, and they got back on, they're trying to reverse engineer stuff too. So I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the Russian sightings for the most part.
Yeah, and I mean, here's the thing that I look at, right, is that even though we have democratic countries, we have communist countries where you are less likely to trust in information that has been given because of the propaganda machines that they use. But when it comes to the people, I don't think people are communists. I think countries are, right? And I don't think misinformation comes from people. I think it comes from governments. So, at some level, I would at least, what I would do with this one is I would just put it on the board and then look for other information to corroborate it. But if it's a personal account, then I'm likely to at least consider it.
Right. But this is what you do as a researcher and investigator of this stuff. A lot of this stuff, especially when you get into cryptids, is hypothesis, conjecture. You have to always keep your mind open, and you got to put it in the, Well, this is the far left hypothesis column where I don't know if I'm going to believe it, but I'm waiting for something else to come out that corroborates what I've been hearing here or reading here. So I'm on the fence, or as the kids say today, 6'7". They do something stupid like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just because of the nature of what the Soviet Union, and it takes a while for a country that was that closed to really be open enough that you can actually speak the truth without having any type of ramification.
Understood. And then getting to one of the one I love. This is the one I love. Area school sighting, 1994. Which in this sighting was at a school, 62 children, 62 school children reported seeing landed UFO and humanoid beings on September 16, 1994. A UFO sighting occurred outside Ruwa, Zimbabwe, involving 62 pupils aged 6 to 12 at Ariel School. They reported seeing silvercraft land near their school and encountering black-clad creatures who communicated telepathically with an environmental message, causing fear and tears. 14 writer Jerome Clark described it as the quote, most remarkable close encounter of the third kind of the 1990s, while skeptics attributed it to mass hysteria. Not all children witnessed the event, but those who did maintained their accounts' truthfulness. Rua, a small agricultural center near Harare, was the location of the incident. Ariel School was a private institution with pupils mostly from wealthy families. 2 days earlier, UFO sightings, including a bright fireball, were reported across southern Africa, sparking UFO mania. The Ariel School sighting happened at 10 a.m. during a mid-morning break, lasting about 15 minutes while faculty were in a meeting. Initially dismissed by teachers, the children recounted the events to their parents, prompting many to visit the school the next day. The incident was reported on ZBC radio, leading to further investigation by Cynthia Hind. And we all have seen the videos with the kids being questioned and interviewed in the moment, which I think was awesome because you get to feel the emotion, you can see the looks on their face. And for me, they saw what they saw. They saw what they saw, and
100%.
the teachers walked away from that initially, not allowing them to have their moment and saying that this was bullocks, and then turned around years later as they become adults and stuck with the same story and said, okay, we now believe them and we're sorry. They apologized. But this is another scenario where you had these kids get together, draw the same thing. They all saw the same thing. This very likely happened. Westall School, they did the same thing. They drew pictures in the moment. They likely also saw what they saw. Then you get to the Broadhaven where they did the exact same thing. They drew images. They likely saw what they saw. All mass sightings of extraterrestrial craft attempting to contact human beings. And the why, you can go down a lot of different paths on the why they did that. But it just shows you in the bigger picture is that these things, not only are they up there and are we seeing them occasionally, the 1 and 2 and one person scene, we're having mass sightings where many people are seeing them undeniably. And
Right.
if you see this and you look at this and you're like, wow, then when you look at 3i Atlas, it's something that isn't normally seen coming in here, and it's exhibiting all these different characteristics, anomalous characteristics that aren't expected. Then it makes very good sense to at least consider the fact that it might not be from, that it might be tied to something intelligent.
Yeah, I agree with you. One of the best part about this sighting, the Aero School sighting, is if you look at the eyes do not lie. And these kids' eyes were they were wide, they were focused, they were fixed, and they were telling you what they saw. It backed up what was coming out of their mouths. And I understand the staff can't, there's protocol. I got to worry about my job. I got to feed my family. I'm going to go along with whatever the boss says, right? Kids don't do that. Kids usually tell the truth. Most, if they've seen something, they saw something. They know the consequences of lying. And when you get into this type of community, with the wealthier kids going there, if there's been many stories with extraterrestrials coming down and alerting people there is an environmental problem, there is this problem or that problem, and they're trying to get that message across. If you know something's going to happen in that area, Zimbabwe, and you're trying to alert the power people there, which are the ones that send their kids to this school, it's harder to get to those people because adults don't want to believe this stuff. But if you can get all these kids and you deliver the message to the children of the president and the governor and whatever, and they're all saying the same thing, eventually it's like, oh, let me look into this. Somehow it works. It's like telephone, but in a good way. Back to him. I love this sighting. It's one of the best. Between this and the light, the children, the light being children, and the light language, Mary Rodwell from Down Under. I mean, it's just they always use children as a medium to kind of get this out, because kids, like, some adults say, "Oh, you're making it up," and then if they keep sticking to their guns, that's when you could really tell that they are telling the truth. So I love this sighting.
And that's another reason why I say, just walking away from, just looking at the cases and just looking at them on that basement level, on the bare bones level, and not needing to, talk about the reasons why, but just that the fact that it happened and being able to lean in on that, that's pretty solid. And when you look at all these cases and you put them all together, you have a lot of compelling events where you have to walk away and question the why at that point. And then also, knowing that if these things aren't from here, they had to come in from somewhere out there. So if we see something else that's coming in from out there and we don't recognize what it is, that's the reason we're having the 3i Atlas conversation. That's why it's in the news every day. That's why it's important not to just, brush Avi Loeb off to the side, because had he not stepped up and at least made this connection or statement, then we would just the blind eye and looked at and talked about the next news cycle. This would have passed and maybe been something crazy that we didn't pay attention to, but NASA would have known. NASA would have definitely paid attention whether Avi Loeb stepped forward or not. So to have a whistleblower essentially is a cool thing to have.
One of the things, and I know we're running out of time, but one of the things that concerns me is how mass disseminated this is. It feels like we're being set up for something. And I mean, call that like the kid that grew up on the streets, or whatever. I'm not trying to be a skeptic. I'm just, my spidey senses are saying they're trying to set something up. And I don't like it. In this day and age, there's a lot of people see things and they think it's true, or they hear the 30-second soundbite. They don't bother doing the research. I always want you to do research. Don't just believe what I'm telling you or saying. Please research it, fact check it. But have give yourself a little bit of a leeway on this 3i Atlas, because, some of the experts said in 2012 the world was going to blow up. How many, you got these people saying that the end of days are here, and there's global warming, and you know what? Just hold on tight. If it does turn out to be true, that's great for everybody that loves, this subject matter, and let's pray that they're good and peaceful.
Yes, and with that being said, they could be leading us up to something. I think that that's true. What that thing is, I don't know. But until we figure out what 3i Atlas is, it could be imminent alien contacts. With that being said, that's where we're going to leave the show out. Thanks, Sir Knight Bryan Bowden, for coming on in. We're getting ready to go into the third hour with Drew Banky.
Conversation.
Chief Doctor tells untold mercy person mystery. See you in a minute. Take care,
You're
Brian.
listening to After Hours
Yep.
with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio.
You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
All right, we are clear. And not saying that that's what it is, guys, but it could be. You never know. We'll be back right after the break. All right, everybody, welcome back. Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show. We're in after hour number 3. We have about 15 seconds before we come back from radio. So appreciate everybody coming on in. Make sure you hit the like on this video as we drop some knowledge here tonight. Let's get ready to go. All right, everybody, welcome back. Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show. We are in after hour number 3. Meet your host, Mr. Rob G. We want to thank our guest, Sir Knight Bryan Bowden, for stepping on in, having a conversation on alien contact. Is it imminent? Is it imminent? I think it's definitely going to happen at some point. I don't know if 3i Atlas is it, but historically, they've been trying to reach out for a long time. I think that's the takeaway from today. A lot of real examples of encounters that have happened. So we'll be going ahead and getting into some Steve Stockton Tales Untold Missing Person Mysteries now. You know why? Because we appreciate Steve Stockton being a part of the show, and we always got to say that before we get going here. So let's jump right on into it.
Welcome to Tales Untold and Missing Persons Mysteries on Spaced Out Radio's After Hours. My name is Steve Stockton, and I'm here to take you on a journey of mysteries, legends, and true stories. Come, join me on this strange adventure of Tales Untold and Missing Person Mysteries. First up, we have the Roberts family. John Roberts and his wife Julie Englehart, both 49, and their 11-year-old daughter Brooke Roberts went missing on April 6, 2019, from Hesperia, California, in the United States. The family had lived in Hesperia, but in 2017 had moved to John's hometown of Ozark, Alabama, and then back to Hesperia again in 2019. The trio were staying in a Motel 6 while the parents looked for work and a more permanent residence. Julie had a phone conversation with an unnamed relative on the 6th of October 2019, where she stated she had found a job cleaning used trailers for an unknown business in the Hesperia area. She also told the relative that the family was in the process of moving to Spring Valley Lake. She was excited about the new job and the move and seemed to be in good spirits. Nothing struck the relative as odd or wrong about the call, and after a brief conversation, they hung up and went about their respective lives. Only this would be the very last time anyone has heard from any member of the family. Julie was supposed to call the relative the next day, but the call never came. There's no further information about this case and no news since that last phone call. The family's whereabouts are still unknown to this day. Detectives are seeking contact from anyone who may have information on the whereabouts of John, Julie, or Brooke, and are asked to contact Detective Jason Schroeder at the Hesperia Sheriff Station on 760-947-1500. Next, we have the disappearance of Alan and Terry Westerfield. On September 12, 1964, brothers Alan and Terry Westerfield vanished without a trace. Alan was just 6 years old and Terry was 11. On this day, their stepfather, Carl Bach, dropped the boys off in front of the Broadway Theater on Hay Street in downtown Fayetteville, North Carolina. The boys were planning on seeing a double feature, but when Carl came to pick them up at the agreed-upon time, the boys were nowhere in sight. It was just about dusk, and alarmingly, there was no sign of the young boys. Earlier in the day, the boys' mother, Margaret, had left them in the care of their regular babysitter, a woman named Barbara Temple, so she could go to work. When she returned home, she found that Miss Temple had been dismissed by the boy's stepfather, Carl Bach, whom she was separated from at the time. Carl explained he had dropped the boys off to see the double feature at the movie theater. Upon hearing this, the pair began to argue, which led to Margaret storming out of the house and heading to nearby Fort Bragg to drink at the NCO club. When she returned home, it was 1 o'clock in the morning, and her children still weren't home. Margaret then confronted Carl, and he explained to her how he'd gone to the theater at approximately 7:45 p.m. to pick the boys up and bring them home, but could find no trace of them. He said he had waited there at the theater until about 9:30 before considering they may have walked home or that their mom had picked them up instead. Immediately upon hearing this, Margaret called the police and reported her sons as missing. There were many discrepancies found in Carl Bach's story, including his own girlfriend at the time, who telling investigators she did not remember seeing the two boys at the theater that night. At around 3:30 in the afternoon, one of Terry's friends had come over and asked if he could come out and play, to which Carl informed the child that Terry was being punished and could not come outside at the moment. Also, Miss Temple, the babysitter who Carl sent away, claims she insisted that she stay with the boys until their mother Margaret returned, but Carl insisted even more that she leave and said he would care for the boys until their mother returned. Eventually, Barbara Temple gave up the argument and left as she was told. Margaret, Carl, and at least a dozen other people were brought in for questioning, but nothing ever came of any of it. In the year 2000, when the case was being looked at again, it's been reported that Carl Bach was brought in and was at first incredibly nervous. However, when he was told he wasn't being charged with anything, he suddenly became arrogant and uncooperative with the authorities. So what happened to these two boys? While many believe the stepfather was involved somehow in their disappearance and that he was somehow looking for a way to get his revenge on their mother, Margaret, for ending their relationship, and while no evidence points toward anything he said about dropping them off at the theater that night or picking them up could be confirmed, the fact remains that these two little boys were never found. No trace of them, and no evidence showing one way or another what possible fate could have befallen them. To this day, no one has ever been charged with anything, and police are apparently no closer to solving this, North Carolina's oldest missing person case. Now we have the Salomon family. On October 13, 1982, Stacy Pearman, one of the neighbors of the Salomon family, called the police when she noticed the family's pool was overflowing in their backyard. She and her mother went and knocked on the door first, but when nobody answered, they became concerned. When the police walked into the home that day, they were not expecting what they found. There was no one inside the residence, but everything seemed perfectly normal. A bit too normal, actually. Even the bed in the master bedroom was made up beautifully, and there seemed to be nothing out of place. This was, of course, upon first glance. As the investigators looked a little deeper, they found 14-year-old Michelle Salomon's bedroom in absolute disarray. Her bed frame was broken, the bedding was missing, and there were some spots of what looked like blood on her mattress. Elaine Salomon, her husband Saul, and their 14-year-old daughter Michelle and 9-year-old son Mitchell were all missing. Upon interviewing friends and other family members of the Salomons, investigators found out that Elaine Salomon never even made her bed to begin with, so the fact that it was made so perfectly that day, at the time of the disappearance, was deeply disturbing, according to cousin and best friend Doreen Laffer. After a brief but thorough investigation, nothing was found that alluded to where the family could have gone, and they were never found. After suffering nightmares for years, Stacy Pearman decided to investigate the mystery on her own. She found a man named Harvey Rader, a man who had attended a car auction with Saul the night of he and his family's disappearance. This man's story was said to be riddled with inconsistencies and full of what she called flat-out lies. Harvey was also linked to 3 other missing person cases. At the end of the day, however, no arrests have ever been made, and the facts in this case are few and far between. Theories aren't hard to come by, but it remains to this day that the Salomon family disappeared, seemingly without a trace, into thin air that night, so long ago, in October of 1982. A whole family, a mother, father, daughter, and son, just poof and gone. How does this even happen? We'll let you be the judge. Next up, we have Simon Cadwell, Chantal McDougall, and their daughter, Leila. In July of 2007, Simon Cadwell, his wife Chantal, and their daughter all vanished without a trace from their southwestern Australian home in Nannup, Perth. The family were renting a home, and a man named Antonio Popic lived on the property in a caravan. Chantal's father, Jim McDougall, reported his daughter and her family missing in October, when he was told there had been no sign of them, and nothing but a note that said "Gone to Brazil" stuck to the front door of the rental home. He stated, "After a few weeks, I was a bit suspicious we didn't hear, so I actually contacted overseas where they were supposed to be, and there was no record. So I got really worried and contacted missing persons." Antonio Popic had also gone missing in November of that same year, a month after Simon and his family were reported as missing. Mr. Popic's brother reported him as missing as well. Investigators found that none of the 4 missing persons' passports had been used, nor had their bank accounts or credit cards. Nothing to indicate they were on a simple vacation, as the note left on their front door had alluded to. Acting Sergeant Fiona Capron said they had settled their lease, and it seems they left in quite a hurry, but left no sign where they could have gone. None of the four had ever used their cell phones again either. It's a huge mystery as to where any of them could have possibly ended up or why. Sergeant Capron stated, "As far as we know, a couple of days before they went missing, they sold the car that Chantel owned. They left their property in their house at Nantup, and they haven't been seen since." Simon Cadwell is said to have been a very charismatic cult leader, and therefore the search for the family and their friend had led to investigations into whether or not they had run off to join some kind of religious sect. Though many reports have come in leading the police to think that this may very well be the case, no conclusive evidence has ever come to light making it a fact. The police have also issued a national missing persons alert and have continued working on the case and following up with any and all leads, regardless of how trivial, that still come in to this day. So what happened to this entire family and their lodger? How could four people just vanish into thin air? This case also has so much rumor and speculation surrounding it, but at the end of the day, when basing opinions solely on fact and evidence, there is almost nothing to go by, and their whereabouts remain unknown. Now, while all the cases we've discussed here today contain different circumstances, and the people come from all different walks of life and time frames, one absolute fact remains constant and the same. Every single one of them seemed to simply vanish from the face of the earth, never to be seen or heard from again. The fate of not knowing is sometimes said to be worse than actually knowing the friend or loved one has been deceased or what actually became of them. In these cases, and so many more across the world, the rumor and speculation that we mentioned earlier tend to twist the case and bend it one way or another, sometimes even turning it into something which cheapens the memories of the missing. Let's try and not do that here, folks. Let's keep it respectful and continue to not only pray for the missing and their loved ones, but also to come forward with any and all information, no matter how small and inconsequential it may seem to us, to the proper authorities, in hopes that some closure can eventually be provided, and justice, if necessary, to the families and friends of these, the lost people of our world. Some very, very strange disappearances indeed. I look forward to your comments, but please keep it friendly and respectful. As always, be good to yourselves and each other. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you just a little farther on down the trail. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'll talk to you next time.
All right. Steve Stockton Tells Untold Missing Person Mysteries. Once again, it's always awesome to be able to have Steve Stockton be a part of this show. Just, I think, adds to it, as does our next person coming up here. You all know him. You all know who he is. He's none other than Drew Banky, coming in with the After Hours wrap-up.
You're an irredeemable monster!
Come here, I'm gonna eat you! Get in my belly!
He's out of the north! He doesn't have north! Going! Wolfman's got north!
You're a monster!
Yes, Drew Banky stepping in with the After Hours wrap-up. How you doing, Drewski?
Great. How are you doing, brother?
You know, I'm doing well. You know, we ended the last show off kind of talking about Three Eye Atlas, and we briefly got to talk about it. Kind of started this show off going into it and what's been going on lately. And, you know, posing the question really for this show was, is it potentially possible alien contact is imminent? Now, imminent can mean a couple of different things. It means definitely going to happen, like without a doubt. And it's not saying when. So Three Eye Atlas not saying Three Eye Atlas is this alien craft for sure, but there's the possibility. And we kind of made a case tonight, I think, with just terrestrial cases. What I always say, we fall back on history and look at just the bare bones, the bare minimum to show that we do have a presence here that we're dealing with. We don't know what it is. We don't have answers outside of what they are, why they're here. And a lot of people like to go deeper than that. I don't necessarily start there. But what did you think about some of these cases that we went over tonight? Were there any that stood out to you? Did you have any favorites out there that kind of really is a case that you felt like brings it home, even one that wasn't on the list tonight?
Well, I always like the one involved anything involving children. So the big case, I think it was in the early 90s.
The Ariel, yeah.
Yeah, the aerial sighting. That one really interested me, is because for a few different reasons. There was one kid that didn't experience, that has a totally different like account like of it, and all the other kids have these have like a contact event account of it. And there's one kid that said it was like a reflection off a piece of metal that was over there. Like, I've seen a few documentaries on it. So it really interests me that, even when there's so many people, especially kids, Brian brought up a good point with, kids don't lie. There's why would they lie, especially when they're pressed over and over again? And these kids from the aerial school sighting are still saying the same. A lot of them are still have the same account, that they've had all along. So this is anything involving kids really interests me, because I think, my theory on it is they're interacting with kids, or want to interact with kids, is because they don't have a filter on yet. And this filter that society puts on us, and not believing your intuition, not believing things outside yourself, and energy, and all these other those. So before kids can get indoctrinated in the system and brainwashed, that's why those are my favorite cases, and that's probably one of my favorite cases of all times, is the aerial school sighting.
Yeah, and you make a great point there, and I've talked to who we'll be having coming up in a couple of weeks here, Deb Shakti, about the same thing, just kids being super already open and unlocked before society kind of puts that thing on them and dumbs them down, essentially. They're wide open to possibilities, and anything is possible as a kid. I know it doesn't matter who you are, you can remember a time where you thought the world was yours, and you were just so open to just all possibilities. No one had told you, no, that can't happen, or no, you can't do that. That's impossible for that to happen. You hadn't gotten any of that yet. So any ideas that came into your mind were treated with an open-mindedness that, we're trying to re-achieve here as adults, once, going through this awakening process.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's yeah. And all the other, I mean, there's been how many people all these cases you sent me over all that information like right before the show. But all those cases like are well documented. There's multiple witnesses on on all those cases. And it's people are asking, when is disclosure happen, or when are we going to have a sighting, a sighting that's really going to turn the tide. I guess like it's going to happen. It's going to have to happen for that individual person. You're going to have to see it to believe it. And it's kind of one of those things that you're going to have to experience, even with all these well documented cases. So yeah, it was a great show tonight. I'm glad that we had that, and the guest was perfect for that type of interview.
Yeah, and I agree. And the whole thing is that usually there are topics we talk that get talked about that everybody kind of knows about, right? I think there were some ones in there. I think a lot of people say, "Oh, I didn't know about that. That one was new to me," and kind of opens the eyes up even more for those within the community. But for those on the outside, just coming in, dipping their toes in, they got a list of things to kind of really look at and kind of further confirm for themselves to see how they feel about it. But I think the whole picture painted was is that we have just on the bare base level. I said, instead of going from the top down, starting with the message that they're saying and extraterrestrials are here for this, this is what they do and why they do what they do, instead of starting up there, because that's unverified. A lot of that stuff up there is unverified at this point, and it's just different people's ideas. But starting at the base level where we know we have historical data which shows craft are here. That's, we could stand on that for sure. Craft are here. We could stand on the fact that that these beings and wherever they're from have gotten out of these craft, and people have observed these, multiple people in a mass sighting, not just one individual. Not saying that one individual is any less than a group, but for those outside of the community who ask for proof. And if you look at just at words, a mass sighting is going to be more acceptable to them than a single person sighting, right? So I think looking at that, and if you approach it like that, you could take all these cases, and it should wow you. And then also for the people that say they extraterrestrials won't step in contact until we reach a certain level, which could be true on some levels, meaning they won't step in to facilitate things until that happens. But it's obvious that in a lot of these cases, if not all, it was an attempt to be seen and to be known, and an attempt maybe even to make contact. So if we had all that historically, and then we look at what's going on today, and a lot of the things, even I always say the drone stuff, and you can still throw 3i Atlas in there because we don't know what it is. It's all culminating up to a certain point for something to happen, and just opening your mind up to, instead of looking at 3i Atlas as just a rock, you got to realize we got a lot of weird stuff here that we have confirmed essentially, that would lead you to at least have to look at something coming from out there, and thinking twice about what it might be if you haven't already confirmed it, which we haven't. And that's the other thing. Scientists have been looking at this thing, the 3i Atlas, all these months, and they keep saying, yeah, it's a comet, but it keeps showing reasons why it isn't. And so, I think these cases set you up to at least have an open mind on seeing what this is before we figure out what it actually is.
Sure. Why? For one, why does people believe NASA? That question always comes up. They've lied so many times. We've caught them in lies. It's kind of a wide. It's widely known that they've lied to us about a lot of things. The moon landing, the footage of the moon landing. Why would we believe them now? And it's come out in congressional hearings. We have recovered biological pilots from crafts. To name. It's kind of known that Roswell, we recovered pilots from there, and there's speculation that there was living pilots. Talk about EB1 and Colonel Corso. These are all well documented things. So why is it so hard to believe that this could be, this could be a craft, and it could be inhabited by people that or someone that's coming here to this planet for whatever reason? Why is that so hard to believe, especially when it's emitting all these different anomalies that are showing it's not a comet? And it'd be interesting. I would love to fantasize, and I hope it is a big mother craft that's going to come on New Year's, and it would be an interesting chapter to the story of humanity that we're in right now. I mean, it's if this was a book, or if this was a movie, how it's been leading up, the years that's been leading up to it, this would fit into the narrative of our story of our times right now. And if it does happen, it's even more proof that maybe this is some type of simulation that we're living through right now.
And to take it back, we were talking about, we ended it off with kids tonight, and the school sightings. Let's take it back to school, because remember, we used to do earthquake drills. We used to do, I don't even remember a time where we did fallout drills and things of that nature. And so, it wasn't because it's going to happen now, but it was just to be prepared. As we go into our final break here of the night, Drew Banky joining us with the After Hours wrap up. We had an awesome show tonight with Sir Bryan Bowden as we talked about the potential or the imminent potentially alien contact, which I think is obviously going to come. 3i Atlas, we talked about all this and more. We'll be talking some more right after this break. Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show. See you back here in a couple minutes. All right, we are clear. We are clear. FAP, Earth is flat. We all know it, NASA. Yeah, no. I've been debating, is it even worth doing a flat Earth show? Is it even worth it? Let me see ones out there. Who even wants to entertain flat Earth? Because
FAP said I'm blind now. I'm so white. Dude, even if I go outside right now, it's cold, so I'm wearing long sleeves anyways and a hat. So even if I do go outside, I'm not getting any sun, and it could be the lighting.
It is.
It's weird. It's the same light. It's the same exact light that was in my face in Blanca. Like same exact light.
What it is the do you have options on your camera to adjust? Because it's I think probably exposure. The exposure is too high. If you lower the exposure, it'll take a lot of bright off.
I don't have any of that options, but it's the same.
Or what are you working on? A webcam, or is it?
That's like a
standalone.
Yeah, no, it's just a webcam. That's a high def webcam. It's the same camera, same light.
We're working on it offline. It's Drew Banky, right? He's just to see you better, my dears. To see you better.
Look at his forehead. It's a forehead. I know it may look like a 5 head, but it's only a forehead. Look at that.
It's all good. It's all good. Yeah, and let me see. It says Iowa is flat. Yeah, I've been down in I was in Oklahoma. Oklahoma is pretty much flat. I've been to Texas. Texas is pretty much flat. Flat as a board where you can see for miles and miles and miles and miles and miles and miles and miles. It's crazy. It's crazy. I didn't believe. That's why when I was hearing of like Sasquatch in Texas, I was like, where? Because when I was in Texas, all I saw was open fields. I didn't see any sort of habitat that would hold Sasquatch, but apparently there is a corner of Texas that has terrain, has like elevated terrain, and I think even maybe some, a lot of foliage. Because for the most part, it's just open plains for as far as the eye can see.
Yeah, there's a man. You're west of me, so you probably never travel from the east to Colorado. Driving through Kansas, dude, it's like it is the most mind-numbing thing coming east from Kansas, having to go through Kansas, and then you get to Colorado and you think it's gonna be mountains, but it's just like it still look like Kansas for a little while, and then you start seeing the mountains. But man, it's like a mirage when you're driving across Kansas. You can see the mountains off in the distance, and you're like, oh, like I can start seeing the mountains, but still a couple
You're
hundred
like
miles
8 hours away. Yeah, still.
Dude, it's like 8 hours driving through Kansas. It's mind numbing, just flat cornfields and everything. But yeah, where's that? Oh, Blythe, California. That's have you ever been there?
I think I've been there. I passed through there before. I think that's where the petroglyphs are.
Did you
I haven't
stop?
set to go there. No. This was like years ago. I haven't set my current plans to actually go through there and film the petroglyphs.
It's an amazing thing to see in person. Like you just get. It's one of those things that you got to see in person. And then you're like, oh man, they're trying to talk to someone up above. Like, they're.
I didn't want to go yet because I would like to have a drone, a good, high 4K drone, because you have to, in order to see these petroglyphs, the best way to see them is to see them from a elevated point, standpoint. I think you can stand on this platform, but it's really not high enough to really take it in.
I don't know if you could fly a drone there. Maybe.
I think you can, because I looked at it. I had actually put it on my itinerary because I was going to Texas, and I was kind of mapping out the area. It's just in the middle of nowhere. It's like off the road. You kind of have to park and then walk a little bit, but it's not by anything important. But I need a drone for my arsenal anyways before I start doing it, because I'm intending on getting out there and doing things on the road, visiting places, and
Yeah.
I need a drone. I need to have a drone shot, man. Everybody has a drone shot.
I just found out there's a new petroglyph site that's in this valley that's close to us that I just found out about today. So
Coming back right now, guys, from radio. Here we go. All right, everybody, welcome back. Spaced Out Radio After Hours Radio Show. We are in the After Hours wrap up with Drew Banky here on our back half of hour number 3. We had a fantastic show tonight. I think a lot of people might have learned some things too, citing some obscure sightings we talked about. Like I said, I think we can walk away from this saying that alien contact is on the horizon, if not imminent. And we explained the reason why. I hopped in the archive. It's absolutely free. So as we get back into the conversation, so yeah, I mean, the thing is that we know extraterrestrial, the actual contact event, it's something that we could wake up tomorrow and have this. Who knows? It could be, not even in our lifetime. Maybe our kids, grandkids, great grandkids are the ones to get to have that event. But we know that it's coming. So all we can really do is do the legwork here and at least educate, right? Have the conversations, and then hopefully they just decide to do another mass situation where, which truthfully I think the drone situation was an attempt to do that. I'm still going to stand on that. And the fear that I have, as I said in that moment, is that they try to do it and then we kind of brush it off and just continue in our little bubbles here as if it didn't ever happen. If that keeps happening, like how many times will they do it before they stop doing it, or is that even a thing? I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, for one, I know that they're consciously connected to us, like so they're tapping in. They may not tap into each individual thought, but they can feel the collective thought of how it's moving the needle. They're trying to move the needle just like we are. Like they're pushing for disclosure and understanding just like we are. I believe they're no different. All that being said, like, they could land on the White House lawn and it could be on C-SPAN, and it could do that emergency broadcast where it's the president on all channels. And you're still going to have people that turn it off and say, man, I got to get to bed because I got a early shift in the morning. You're still going to have those people that are not going to I believe that the mass sightings do move the needle, but ultimately a lot of people are not going to believe it until they see it or in person, like they actual see it for themselves. And I think I think it's all turning out how it's supposed to. And these beings, whoever we're dealing with, I believe they're definitely on our side, but they definitely know like what they're doing and how it's unfolding. This is why you know it didn't happen right when the Nimitz stuff come out and the Tic Tac, all those videos come out. That's why we didn't have a mass contact event the next day, because it takes a while to integrate this. And I think they understand that, because they're looking at us mostly on a collective scale. Like, I believe they're looking at us as a whole Earth entity, as just like one big entity. And they're seeing like, okay, they are moving the needle. Like, there is an acceptance, there's a conversation that's happening on a on a mainstream scale. And that's the very first, that's one of, not the first step, but that's where they're at right now. Like, it's an acceptable conversation for the most part. The general public is accepting it, and for it to be real. So I think they're moving forward in a very strategic, and I say they very loosely, I think they are moving forward in a very strategic and thoughtful process.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just my whole thing is that here's an observation that I have of society just as it is, because and it kind of goes over to these are all the same people that'll have to deal with said event whenever it actually happens. Is the way society currently works is you have some people who are born enlightened, born unlocked, and kind of already look from the outside in. You have people who one day during life, usually later in life is when it happens, 30, 40 years old, where you come around to a point to where you have this enlightening moment. And then you have, unfortunately, you have a group of people who are more hive minded. And when high minded can mean different things, but the way that I mean it is hive minded, meaning working for the hive, working for the queen. All you do day in, day out is live to work for the queen, and then you die. You do your task, and then you die. And so it's a part of me is always afraid that you can never get or reach those sort of hive minded people, because they are so satisfied at being plugged into the machine that they don't want for anything more outside of that. They don't have moments where they think about what ifs. They just go to work and do their job and go home and do their job there and then go back to work and then do this day in and day out. And they're satisfied with that. They're not wanting for anything more than that. They're not concerned with anything outside of that. And the fear that I have, and it's not really a fear, but it's just more of a sadness, because those people potentially would be okay with becoming the casualties of said event, because they don't really even think about anything outside of just what society tells them to think about. And it's sad to know that there's a group of people like that that will stay uninformed throughout this whole process. I always hope that we could even still reach those people and maybe plant something in them that kind of breaks them out of that. But to me, it feels like that they're damned if you do, damned if you don't, that there are just going to always be that group of people that will just never want to step outside of that.
Well, they're serving a purpose too. They're allowing it. We talk about duality being a part of our existence. They're without that group, without people like that, we wouldn't have a duality to push back against. So if we're living we're living in this thing that we always have to have a mirror to look across, and check what's off in our hair or something like that to adjust. Like if we're quote unquote enlightened or trying to get enlightened or consciousness like that, like they serve a purpose. And on a bigger grand scale, like if you truly believe that we never die and energy never dies, that's only their body that's serving that purpose. It's not their soul. Their soul knows what it's doing. They're serving a purpose for a duality, so we can look against and throw ideas against and see how we can make ourselves better. And sometimes there has to be someone on the other side of the fence to make us be able to see that. Does that make
it definitely does. It definitely does. And that whole reflection process is like I said, so they're serving their purpose, but that still at the end of the day seems like a sad thing to me, because when you draw that line of disclosure where it's like nothing's the same after this line, it's just before the line, everyone is here, your friends, family, everyone you communicate with, all human beings, whether they are enlightened or whether they are not. And it's just like when you walk up to that line of disclosure and where nothing is the same afterwards, and then you step across that line where nothing is the same afterwards, it's just like everyone is not going to go. It's only a certain portion of us that are going to walk across that line, where there's a portion that just aren't going to do it. And it's just a sad moment, because when you care about people, when it's a people thing and you care about all people from any walks of life and whatever they may be into, or you just care about people, you dread for a moment like that where you have to leave a group behind, or because they're choosing to do so, which is fine because you have a choice to do what you want to do. But it's like, that enlightening moment is going to be a great one, but also a sad one at the
No,
same time.
I I get it. I told this story before, like, and anyone that's like had breakthroughs with psychedelics or any breath work, or uh say someone has a breakthrough with cold plunges. First thing you want to, all those things, like you have a breakthrough that shows like bona fide something that's really helped you in the moment, no matter whether it be psychedelics or anything. What's the first thing that you think about? You're like, oh, my mom could use this, my brother could use this, that, and the other. You go through, you go through your circles, and you start, in your inner circle, and you start working your way out, and you start have a mental list starts popping up of who would be beneficial for whatever this is that you found this truth in. But the reality of it is, none of those people are going to listen to you. Like, it'd be very rare for one of those people to actually listen to you. The people that are going to be coming to you and want to hear about, or open to whatever helped you, are going to be people you never expected, total strangers. And you have to accept that your family, like, once you get on the other side of the veil and open up to another, a larger consciousness, your family is all a consciousness, at that point. And that's what helped me. But ever I hear this time and time again. People, I drank ayahuasca, and I went to a family reunion a couple weeks later, and all I want to do is like introduce this to my aunt that needed it, or my cousin that used to be an addict, or someone that was depressed or suicidal. None of those people want to hear about it. It's about like wanting it, or being open to it at the time, and these walking through the door is, like I've said time and time again, is an individual thing. And these are the reasons why I say these things. This is the backstory of why I say these things. I don't just pull them out of nowhere. It's, from my own experiences, and what I see a pattern is of talking to other people, and trying to push a awakening or UFO stories or anything like that onto someone that doesn't want to hear about it. It, you know, it's a common theme that it shuts people down. But that, the people that come to you and want to hear, lots of times are total strangers, and you kind of have to deal with that. Yeah, whoever is listening to you, or whoever is like taking in whatever you're trying to share at that time, is the right person in that time. And eventually it will be your family, it will be that inner circle. But it starts out, you want to start in and work your way out, but actually starts out and works its way in. Because over time, your family, like my family, there's a lot of members in my family, even recently having a personal message, people reach out. Over time, your family just has to accept the fact that that something is going on with you that maybe they need to look at.
And I hear that, and I have thought and think at times, but especially we talked earlier with Brian about briefly about cult mentality. And I kind of, when I think of that high mind mentality, and that worker bee, and it's really what I call it, worker bee mentality, where you just work for the hive. That to me is a cult personality, and it's I feel like, and it's maybe because I'm just a pro humanitarian. That's just what I call myself. That's what I am. But I always feel like even those people can be reached, and
Yeah.
and maybe it's not on a conversation about consciousness, or even the UFO or the phenomena. Maybe it's not that conversation. Maybe it's a separate conversation. Maybe it's just bringing a realization of what you are participating in. Like, forget the fact that UFOs are here, which is huge for humanity, but let's focus for those high-minded people on the fact that you're locked into something that you likely wouldn't want to agree to if you had better alternatives or better options, right? And so I think like when I bring out the whole conversation about you at 18 years old, would you accept a check for $2 million to work for someone for the next 45 years? If they gave you a check, cold hard cash, $2 million, and said, here, take this, but in turn for this, I need your loyalty and dedication for the next 45 years straight. And would you accept that or not? And I've asked people that who I felt were those high-minded people, and they said no. But and it was for them. They had never thought about it like that, because I was like, that's you.
It's exactly what you did.
It's exactly what you did, what you're doing. But when they hear it like that, it's a moment where they're just in shock and like, whoa, 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 wait a minute, what exactly? And they feel a different way about it, but they never took a moment to think about it. But when you do think about it, it's like, I would never do that. I would never take $2 million at the age of 18 to give my entire working, living life for a particular company or individual. I would never do it. I would ask for a lot more. My life is more valuable to me than that, and I would want more than that. But it's unreasonable to even think you would ever get anything more than that. So I think getting to those people, just, the fact that society isn't really what you want, I think that conversation could be had with those people, and then just to wake them up out of that, because really it isn't. It's not a good deal for anybody. Now, $2 million, that's if you're making over $50,000 a year, and that's if you are working every single day of that 45 years, and that is without taking taxes out on top of that, which is not even realistic. So less than that, would you take that for the prime of your life? I don't think you would. So going back to that natural state,
and paying for, all these different services, like here in this, just for one example, like there's a couple different propane, we're getting in winter time now. There's a lot of off-grid properties here, so a lot of them use propane. Like one of the companies, I won't name any names because I don't even want to get into that, but one of the companies has a much higher rate. Like it's at least like 75 cents a gallon for propane than these other companies, and it's like I don't know, it may be even more than that. But why do we have to pay for heat? Like, I understand, like there's a lot of moving parts. You got to get it out of the ground. You got to get it transported, this, that, and the other. But, why do we have to pay for food? Things like that. Like, kids are going hungry. We're talking about, years ago, we're talking about other countries and kids going hungry in other countries. Now we're starting to see that here in the United States, like kids going hungry. Like, we just voted in Colorado recently about school lunches. Like, why do kids still have should go to school and not have to worry about having to pay for a lunch? Like, they should just go to a school, walk into a lunch at noon and have their lunch without having to worry about paying for it. Like, why can't we erase that trauma for a lot of these kids? Like, I was a low income kid, and I had like discounted lunches, so it was embarrassing for me to buy lunches when I was a kid. So I know that's like a trauma. Like, why can't we erase that? That's just one of these BS things that we have to put up with. But what you're talking about, and I coined the phrase socially accepted slavery, 40 hours a week, 40 hours a week, 5 days a week working. You get 2 days off if you're good. You can work those 2 days to catch up if you get behind. But the general construct is you get paid just under or right at what you need to survive. And that is the formula that the powers to be have put into place for the past 70, 80 years. And they ingrained it through TV, media, and any way they could, as that's what it should look like. So it's a social construct.
We're going to put a cap on it right there, Jubeki. Appreciate you coming on in. We're going to pick that topic up on another day. Anything you want to say to everybody before you get up out of here?
Much love to everybody. Have a great rest of the night, and I'll see you next weekend or whenever I see you again. So yeah, much love to everybody.
All right, Jubeki. Appreciate you, bro. Take care.
Yeah, man.
All right. Drew Banky with After Hours wrap up, guys. We'll try to get a quick news story in if we can.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
All right, UFO weird news of the week. Woman who claims she is an alien has terrifying proof they exist. A woman is explaining how she found sudden clarity that she's actually an alien from 400 light years away, along with proof of her extraterrestrial origins. When it comes to proving the existence of aliens, most people look to the skies in search of UFOs, flying saucers, or even badly behaving comets. However, one woman that believes that proof of extraterrestrial life lies closer to home, more specifically inside herself. For Brighton-based Rosanna Hannes, she has said evidence of aliens exist, as she herself is a visitor from the outer cosmos who is living on Earth in human form, and her mission to help people. Now, this may sound a little similar to the plot of Yorgos Lanthimos and Emma Stone's latest flick, Begonia. However, Hannes says she can prove her claims. Speaking about her beliefs in the interview with The Sun, Hannes explained that she would often experience spooky and vivid dreams from a young age, including a premonition that her uncle had passed away. Quote, I've had vivid dreams where I was soaring high above buildings, open country, and ocean. It was so vivid it felt like it was real. She explained, the dreams didn't frighten me. In fact, I loved them. But when I told my friends about them, they seemed confused. However, it wasn't until she was introduced to a spiritual teacher as a teenager in a form of therapy known as rebirthing, which uses various breathing techniques to simulate being born, that she felt put the extraterrestrial dots together. Recalling the moment, Hannah said, one evening when I was 14, I went over to her spiritual center after school. Closing my eyes, I let her guide me into a rebirthing breathing state before gradually accessing my memories of birth. To my astonishment, I experienced sudden clarity that I'd been sent here from another planet. It was here that Hannah began to realize her dreams were likely astral projections of her dreams of spaceships and hairless humanoids. She says, benevolent spacefarers are also peaceful and loving, which makes a huge change from typical depictions of hostile aliens. She says, my memories have been wiped before traveling to Earth to help me acclimate, but I knew what I needed to do here on Earth, overcome with my own challenges and teach others through my example. That would apparently be through her yoga and emotional detoxing business. It is my job to help others get in touch with their highest self and fulfill their soul purpose, she continued. When my clients' emotions and mindset are creating blocks, I help them identify and release the trapped emotions and limited beliefs because causing problems in their lives. So I help them identify and release the trapped emotions and limiting beliefs causing problems in their lives. That's how we'll go ahead and end that. We'll also want to thank Bryan Bowden, Sir Knight Bryan Bowden, actually, for coming on and being awesome, going over some of these historic cases, because I always say history is very important part of the story and something you should be aware of when looking at things that are happening currently or in the future. You have to be able to weigh against those things. We also want to thank Drew Banky coming in with the After Hours wrap up. Also, let's thank Steve Stockton Tells Untold Missing Person Mysteries, and thank the man that you hear right there, Mr. Ron Bumblefoot. He is the man that rocks us in and out of every show, telling us to never say never again, because yes, the phenomena is real, very, very real, which means anything and everything is possible. If you enjoyed the show tonight, everything we talked about, just throw your horns up. Also, give us a like if you could. Also want to thank our viewers online, the listeners on terrestrial radio, when and wherever in the world you may be listening from. We appreciate you for tuning your frequency to Spaced Out Radio, where we do what we do best. So what's that, you ask? We own the night. Remember, the show is copyrighted Bigfoot Media Ventures Limited, SOR. This has been a pleasure serving you once again. I'm your host, Mr. Rob G. This is the After Hours Radio Show. And to all you space travelers out there, now, this is not a goodbye or a farewell. However, you can best believe we'll be right back here, same time, same place, doing the same thing. So make sure you're here for that. We'd appreciate it. Outside of that, have a great rest of your night, guys. Take care of yourself and others. right, we are clear, crystal clear. Crystal clear. Appreciate everybody coming on in tonight. It's been awesome. We're going to be back doing the same thing next weekend. We'll keep it going. Obviously, we have a list, right? I told everyone last week, and I'll say it again this week. It's after hours at spacedoutradio.com. Email me. Let me know who you would love to see on the show, and I'll make sure that we go ahead and do that. Make that happen for you guys as well, because we have to have conversations that move forward, right? So we are looking for individuals that bring that to the table. So if you know of anyone out there that would be a great conversation, has a great perspective on what's going on here, definitely let me know so I can reach out and we will get them here on this show. Promise. As we get ready to get up out of here, guys, you know how we do it. We want retribution. Before we do that, though, let me go ahead and thank a few people here, because I do see Matt Gutka became a new member, and we do appreciate that. Also, T-Bone is dropping bombs tonight. Who's been a member for 11 months, so that was listed. Also, Kitty Catty Whack dropping super sticker love, as well as Flat Six becoming a member for 12 months. Always moving that needle forward. That's the important part. As long as we're doing that, we're doing what we're supposed to do. Also, T-Bone gifting 5 social dig subs, because, by the way, I do have a channel, which is youtube.com/at Mr. Rob G, just like it shows right here on the screen. youtube.com/at Mr. Rob G. We'd love to see you over there. Also, outside of that, let me see. I know there was a question, actually. I'm going to bring this up. I forgot about this here. Bim Jim had put in the chat earlier, the ETs aliens can have disclosure anytime they want and have not. What does this mean? Does this mean the ETs want no disclosure? Great question. Great question. It's something to ponder on. We'll think about that, and we'll talk about it next week, Bim Jim. Thanks for coming in, guys. We want retribution. Have a great rest of your night. Once again, take care of each other. We're out of here.
Cause we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution.